The artists are the magicians. The creatives are the magicians. The executives are the scientists. So when you go into these boardrooms, when you go into these situations, they're always looking for the formula. There's got to be some kind of path to get to the answer.
Yeah.
But what they don't realize a lot of times is it's the magic. And it's like once you become an executive, it's not that their random little like theories are incorrect. It's just I know why they happen now. Sometimes it's that dude you pass his desk all the time. He's working on the project, but you might look at it as an insignificant role. What you don't realize is that, you know, maybe that kid over there, it's not glamorous, but he's the one in a pinch. He's the one that's going to work a little bit longer to make sure that your record gets ingested on time.
What is up, everybody? My name is Mauricio Ruiz, and welcome to another episode of The Manager's Playbook, where we have conversations with music executives and talk about strategy, tactics, and stories. Specifically in this episode, we talk a lot of stories. We do talk strategy as well, but there was a long lineage and a long history that this individual has gone through in his career, not only as an artist, but also an executive. The person that I'm talking about is the one and only Kardinal Offishall. This is a podcast that goes on for, I want to say, at least 3 hours, because him and I also have a lot of history. So I can't say that I've come up in the business with him, but I've definitely been in the business for a good amount of time where we have operated on things together, and fortunately our careers have crossed paths. We talk about his life as an artist, but we also talk about his life as an executive, as I mentioned, because he is also an A&R in the music business at a major record label, and he's been doing that for a number of years. So he's in a very nuanced, very unique position that many aren't, where he gets to see behind the Iron Curtain, as we said on that episode, and he also gets to see it from the artist's perspective. Simply put, a conversation like this doesn't come cheap. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Kardinal Offishall. My guy.
What up?
What's going on, sir?
Chilling, bro.
Thank you for making the time for this, man. I really appreciate it.
Why don't you tell everybody the truth that you're Colombian
Okay.
and you tied me up
That's what we're starting with this podcast?
and threw me in a trunk?
Listen, I didn't do it, but there may have been some Colombians who were involved in the process. And then they had to talk to some of your Jamaican people, and, you know, we sorted it all out. But we came to this conclusion over here, man. No, listen, I can't minimize how important you are to not only the culture of hip-hop music, but the culture of music, period, in Canada, in Toronto specifically. You can't overstate it. I mean, you've been in this game for 30 years now, and that's quite a legacy. If I name everything that you've done in your career, I mean, we'd be here for like an hour going through it. But I will say, like, you know, off the top, there's an incredible amount of records that you have. I came across you, obviously, with a lot of people here in Toronto for Northern Touch.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you had Husslin, and we had BaKardi Slang, which was monumental, all-time Killin. And you got a 5-time platinum record with Akon called Dangerous. I don't know if you heard it, people, but, you know, it's kind of a big record, kind of a big deal. That went number 5.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it before. Got you. Well, that went number 5 on the Hot 100 in the U.S., which is a big deal. It's not like, you know, records kind of debut higher now because of streaming, but this is all pre-streaming. So that's amazing for a Canadian artist. And then you transitioned into being on the business side and the executive side.
Diversified. Transition, I always take to mean you abandon the other side. So
Diversified.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, because you're still an artist.
That's right.
So you diversify.
I got a show tomorrow.
You got a show tomorrow in Calgary. And that was what, 2010, I want to say?
What's that?
That you became an A&R at Universal, executive creative
No,
director?
that was 2014.
Sorry, 2014.
So this year would make it 10 years,
10 years
that I've been like officially, no pun intended, on the executive side.
Got you.
Yeah.
So you were that in Universal Canada, and then a couple of titles there at Universal Canada. So it was first executive creative director of A&R, and then senior VP of A&R. But today, you are global director, A&R at Def Jam.
Yeah, it's Global A&R. Well, we can
A&R.
talk about titles in a second anyway, but yeah, Global
Sure.
A&R at Def Jam.
And so That's incredible, first and foremost. I mean,
It's a blessing, yo.
yeah.
It's a blessing for real.
First of all, if you can, explain what does that title entail to be Global A&R at Def Jam?
So I think the conversation that myself and Tunji had was like, first of all, you already know anything ex-US is global.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Anything outside of the US is considered international, global, whatever. And, you know, for me, I am somebody that I've never just been a local person. You feel what I'm saying? In terms of my career, being involved in other people's career, it's never been something that has been like just super centralized to like one part of the world. Like we've literally been on tour almost everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, from Romania to China to the Middle East, you know what I'm saying? Beirut, Caribbean, like just pretty much everywhere you can think of. You know what I mean? So it's like I've led a very global career. You know what I mean? Even like my first record deal was for me outside of my own home territory. So the first record deal that I signed, you know, was in LA with MCA.
Right.
So I've always kind of been a global minded person, and I've always traveled a lot because I thought, not only do I love traveling, bro, but it's just like the more you travel, and it's like, it's even like that with, you know, with the charity that I have with my wife right now, 30 Elephants, like our whole mindset, you know, she's a Navy brat. And it's like, I think it expands people's palettes. It expands your understanding of the world the more that you travel. So it's like, it's much different from if you're in Toronto and you go eat on Gerrard Street or a dope spot in Brampton. It's very different when you go to India and you're in India and you're submerged, not in just the culture, but in what it is like to be a part of, you know what I'm saying? Like seeing firsthand what it is like to live in India, you know what I mean? As opposed to just like going to school with folks and
who are from there,
and it's kind of a surface thing. Because for everybody that's watching this around the world, for us living in Toronto, you know, me being a Jamaican Canadian, you being a Colombian Canadian, like this is regular stuff. Like we go to school, we grow up in our neighborhoods with everybody, whether you're Greek, whether you're Asian, South Asian, whatever
big
it is.
diaspora of cultures,
For sure. So I mean, I think that contributed a lot to my mindset in the music industry is Toronto. Because the thing is, I didn't realize how unique our city is until you start traveling and you understand that this is not how everybody does it around the world. You know what I mean? There's definitely places that are similar, you know what I mean? So shout out to, you know what I'm saying, the UK,
London,
like London.
I was gonna say, London feels really similar.
London, the first time I went there, I was like, yo, like at the time we were still wearing like XX, 3XL and all that. I was like, you guys are just like us, just with tight clothes. You know what I'm saying? Like that was literally, I remember being on the radio, shout out to DJ 279. I remember like being on his radio show and he's like, yo, what does it feel like? Like, how is it? Loose talk. And I was like, yo, like this feels just like Toronto. You know what I'm saying? It's just you guys have Euro fit clothes. But other than that, it feels like home. You know what I mean? So anyway, long story medium is, you know, when I connected with Tunji for the whole Def Jam thing, is I didn't want to be limited to be like their Canadian rep, to where it's like my only role was looking for things in Canada and bringing it to Def Jam. I wanted to be able to find talent no matter where it was, as long as it's super ill. And, you know, to me, these are people that I thought would have a long-term career, because I'm admittedly not really one of those TikTok people who's like scouring for whatever the algorithm picked up.
And all that.
Nah, I'm cool on all that.
Yeah. So did you carve out that position for yourself? Like, did Tunji come to you and say, I'd love for you to like kind of be my eyes and ears in Canada? And you said, but listen, there's more to my skill set than this.
No, it was complicated, bro.
And shout out Tunji, by the way, president of Def Jam, for those who don't know. Good people,
for sure.
By the way.
And listen, back to I think it's CEO.
Okay, sorry.
I think it's president.
My
and
bad,
CEO.
Tunji.
You know what I'm saying?
My bad.
I got your back, Nigerian. But it's one of them ones where it's like, you know, I what's the industry? Cut his teeth.
Yes.
Is that the term?
Okay. Depends on where you're going with it, but
true. I cut my teeth in the Canadian space.
Yeah.
So, shout out to Randy Lennox. He was the one that gave me my first opportunity.
Okay, I was gonna say as on the business side, yeah, because
As an
artist,
executive.
it was. I mean, here in Toronto, but like you said, you signed your deal at MCA. But yeah, as an executive.
So that's the thing is, it's like
Yeah.
I knew Randy casually.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I wasn't ever signed to Universal Canada. So it's like I didn't really know him more than like anybody from Europe or America knew him. You know what I'm saying? It's like I would see him and, yo, Randy, what's up? Or I'd come visit the Canadian office because I knew some of the guys.
Yeah.
But it wasn't one of those ones where I was beholden to whatever he was dealing with.
Yeah.
So the way that we started working together was actually, and this is important, it was actually,
I was gonna say that. Yeah.
yeah, it came from a casual space. Shout out to my guy Jimmy Williams, like mutual friend of both me and Randy. And we were actually doing some charity work up in Muskoka. And if anybody knows about Muskoka, that's like our Hamptons. You know what I'm saying? That's where a lot of well-to-do folks are. A lot of wealthy folks are up there. And we were doing something that was called the boat rally for, I think at the time it was called the boat rally for kids with cancer. So
Okay.
I've always, donated my time and my efforts up there. It's a fun weekend, you know what I'm saying? But they always raise a lot of good money for kids with cancer. And one of the weekends we were up there, I remember like it's a whole like Friday to Sunday kind of ordeal. And I remember the Friday I was talking to Randy for a bit at one of the events. And then the Saturday, I remember he was picking my brain about something music related, like
Just on some. Yeah. Okay.
just on some like, yo, what do you think about this? This is what I'm trying to do. And, we spoke for a while. I didn't think anything of it. And then the Sunday, Jimmy had something at the crib. And it doesn't matter who was coming in or out of the bathroom. But like I think I went to use the washroom. I came out and Randy was in the hallway and he's like, yo, I wanted to talk to you about that. We ended up talking, literally just posted up right there outside of the bathroom for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Just he was just picking my brain. I was just like, oh, what about this? A, B, C, D, blah, blah, blah. And I remember him giving me this look. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, wasn't whatever, but I noticed like it was a look like he was intrigued or whatever. And literally, he hopped in his boat to go back to his spot. And by the time he got back, like he had sent me this message. He's like, yo, I'd love you to, to come to the office and come check me or whatever.
Yeah.
And at the time, I actually had to travel to Africa to go do some more philanthropic stuff. We were building schools and houses and things of that nature in South Narok, which is a drive from. Anyway, we went to Africa. I came back and I went to see him, and I remember it was pretty dope because he's like, yo, he's like in the book of my career, he's like, I feel like there's chapters left. But he's like, I would love for you to come work with me to help me really plant the flag, you know what I'm saying? And like really make some of these chapters count. And I was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? That's dope. And I remember he was like, yo, I'd love to give you your own record label. I was like, don't want it.
Don't want it.
Don't want it. Not
Way
interested.
too much work. I'm not trying to.
I've seen, shout out to Ghetto Concept. I remember they had 7 bills.
Yeah.
I've seen, Figure 4, all these different like.
Well, I mean, you were signed a Convict as well too, right? So
all of that. And I was just like, nah. I was like at the time I was like super, super artist centric. Like,
Yes.
you know what I'm saying? Just focused on me, my career, and whatever else. But he was like, listen, okay, no record label. He's like, think of a title, whichever title you want in the organization. It's like it's a blank piece of paper. So he's like, go away, think about it. Let me know what position you'd like.
What was the conversation, if you remember, with him that you saw that he became intrigued, that he was really paying attention? If there's anything specific there?
With Randy,
Yeah.
he just liked the way that I process things, and I think my perspective, you know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
a lot of the times when people are in the industry for a long time, and especially in that executive space, it's kind of like you only see things through a certain lens.
Yeah, they operate in a box. Yeah.
They tend to operate, not everybody, but a lot of people tend to operate in a box. And sometimes for me, just stick a pin in it. Remind me to tell you about. Shout out to Ray Daniels.
Shout out to Ray Daniels.
He gave me this. He gave me this dope thing about the scientists versus the magicians.
Okay,
but we'll get back to that. Anyways, basically, you know, Randy was just like, "Yo, I just love the way that your mind works, and I'd love to, you know what I mean, help. I'd love for you to help me just tackle everything, you know what I'm saying, and bring your perspective, your creativity, and your network to what it is that we're doing here, you know." So at the time, I was managed by Mark Pitts and Wayne Barrow from Bystorm. And, you know, at that time it was fire because at that time they had J. Cole, they had Miguel, they had like all these people. So, you know, home team was super ill.
Crazy.
And I remember, you know, I was just like, like, I don't know. And they're just like, yo, like, you got to think about it. Like, you know, Jay-Z was in there at Def Jam for a couple years, few years, whatever. But he's like, yo, think about all of the dope things that you can learn about, that you can apply to yourself in this role, but then also just in general have a broader understanding of what's happening, you know, within the industry and within the business.
Yeah.
And speaking to that, what's interesting is just even with a lot of the icons, a lot of the people, my heroes that I met, I didn't realize that people don't actually have access to behind the Iron Curtain.
Right.
So people's whole careers, they're still bucking the system, you know what I'm saying? Like still trying to figure it out. And it's like, once you become an executive, it's not that their random little like theories are incorrect. It's just, I know why they happen now.
That was a question I had for you. Actually, it's a great segue because the fact that you got to see behind the Iron Curtain, what are some of those misconceptions that some artists may have and managers that are new to the game? Yeah,
like some people, like sometimes people are like, yo, I'm being blackballed, or some people are like, you know, there's favoritism towards that artist for this reason and that reason. But a lot of times what people don't realize, and mind you, listen, this whole thing that we're doing, I'm going to be super truthful, but at the same time, be respectful of both.
Yeah, of course.
Both entities. No, it has to be said.
Yeah.
Because sometimes niggas just go crazy and just start wilding out.
Yeah.
And whatever. But I think it's important that like people, as much as possible, are able to be educated on both sides, because both sides do matter.
I agree.
So it's like, all right, I'll give you a specific instance. I wasn't an executive at this time, but I couldn't understand. So I remember when Dangerous came out, and at the time it was outselling everybody on the label. Even like the biggest A-list artists, it was outselling everybody. Like it was literally
out the gate.
hundreds of thousands a week. And this is sales, so not some make-believe stream.
Yeah.
Because what people don't understand with streaming is like, if I think you suck, I'm still gonna stream you.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So like when people have, I have 1 billion streams, half of those could be people who think you're trash and want to listen to your music and laugh at you. I come from an era where if you have sales, those are people that bought your music because they want to hear your music.
They're paying out of pocket.
They're paying out of pocket. These are people that are, you know, before iTunes, are taking their cash.
Yeah.
And they're like, yo, I'm either going to buy Kardinal or I'm going to go to the movies. Like it's a either or. Right. These are like intentional decisions to buy your music.
Yeah.
So you got to think about how incredible that is, that hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people a week. Now, this is the first time that it happened to me on that scale. But, you know what I'm saying? They're all buying my music. But I remember at the time I was like, yo, I'm outselling Lady Gaga, but I was like, why is Interscope putting all their attention to Lady Gaga? So it's like, of course, you have all these conspiracy theories. It's because she's white. It's because she's doing pop. It's because this or whatever. But it's like, I really feel, looking back at it and having the education now, her contract was different than mine. Meaning I had the ill lawyer who was like, nah, it's not going to be a 360. You guys aren't going to participate.
Theo.
Shout out to Theo Settlemyer.
Yeah.
You guys aren't going to participate in any of his corporate partnerships. You're not getting any publishing, yada, yada, yada.
Just recordings.
Just recordings at the time. But
because that was a big time for 360 deals, right?
No, this is early.
This is prior?
This is when it's first starting. This is when it was still negotiable.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But what was interesting was, I think that the way her, and this, again, not putting out her business, but this is knowing what I know now. I think her deal was different because it's like they know that if they were going to pour all the effort into her, for them it would be a bigger return on investment. So it's like, even though he's selling mad units right now, we're only seeing a certain percentage of that. But if we were to do the same with somebody like a Lady Gaga, that's somebody to where it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like they'll be able to participate on so many different fronts.
Got you.
That's why you saw Lady Gaga on the Beats by Dre when it first came out. She had her, you know what I mean? She had her own personal joints and whatever.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times, and that's just one random example, but I think what it is that like a lot of artists don't necessarily understand that it's like the one thing about the music business that is very, very odd to people that are outside of the entertainment industry is that there are very few actual standards when it comes to contracts. It's kind of like whatever your lawyer can negotiate.
Yeah, exactly.
Even in 2024, there's no standards.
Yeah.
So it's like, shout out to Jarrell. I remember a business friend of ours who's in the finance industry, and he was talking to me about just like, certain industry standards, and there's just a way that they do things and things to expect. I'm just like, nah, like me and you could have arguably the same skill set, same numbers, same everything. But if your lawyer sucks and mine is dope, I could get $2 million and you could get 150,000.
Yeah, exactly. It's not what you deserve, it's what you negotiate.
That's right. And I think a lot of times artists don't understand that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
yeah, and it's crazy because artists do come into the picture and they're like, okay, they get a little bit of interest and they'll be like, I want this kind of deal. And be like, I don't know how you're gonna get that without any leverage. I think leverage is a super important part of this business. It's funny, you talk about that same situation about all the different ancillary rights that they recoup on and get more revenue.
Hold on,
from.
I'm looking to camera. Did you see the way that the Colombian use ancillary? I love it. You see how far we've come?
What are you trying to say about the Colombian people?
Loose talk. You see how far we've come? You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my Colombian brother, Elevate. You understand?
Man. Listen, man.
Word up.
I like to read. Man. I like to read contracts.
I'll play with you. I'll play.
Of course, I know.
Yes, sir.
What was I saying?
We're talking
See,
about...
now you lost my train of thought. No, ancillary, yes.
There you go. Yes, sir.
The fact that's an interesting point. And the other side of this, and I don't know for sure, but maybe you can answer this because you're on the other side of the Iron Curtain and I've never been on that side, just as management. But I always had this, and I'll tell you, to be honest, I remember having this conversation with one of the presidents. They will remain nameless here in Canada. And we were talking about potentially doing a deal. And this person said to me, well, if we can do the deal here, then we can partner up with a partner in the US. And what I said was, well, explain to me how that's of benefit to my client. Because doesn't that just mean that the participation coming from the record label in the US is only going to be 50%? So if they do double the amount of work but get only 50% of the revenue, why would they focus on the artist that signed to Canada? And this person looked back at me and said, you're not wrong. I always thought about it, and I'm like, is this a fact as well, too, that like it doesn't really make the most sense to do a deal and then look for a partner in the US versus trying to get signed in the US?
I would say it really...
If you're looking for a major label.
It really depends.
Yeah.
It really depends. Like, if you take it like, all right, listen, I'm going to take it back to before we even get to that, because that's like few steps above like your general deal. Every situation is different.
Yeah.
So it's like, things that kind of, I don't know, it kind of irks me these days to where it's like there's this whole narrative where, people solely speak out against the major label system. Right. You know what I'm saying? And as an artist, I've participated in that for most of my career. I think like any other business partnership, you have to really understand what it is that you're getting into to see if it's beneficial to you. You feel what I'm saying?
Of course.
Contracts are literally, in my opinion, way too detailed. But it's like, by the time you get the long form, and for those artists that don't really know what it is, because there's probably a lot of ill artists that are out there and have no idea what a short form is, long form, execution, all that. But the long form is the final version of the contract that you sign for whatever label, and it details everything with all the legal jargon or whatever.
Yeah. For those who don't know, long form is like, it could be like this.
Shoot, sometimes it's like 100 pages.
That's what I'm saying. And a short form is a page.
Yeah,
essentially.
it could be a page, 5 pages.
5
but
pages, yeah.
just a condensed
Summary
version.
of the
exactly.
deal points. Yeah.
But my thing that irks me as just somebody that knows that we all have equal access to it, in a way, is that if you're able to get representation, you have to be able to have the patience to sit down with your lawyer and go over everything and say, talk to me about this. What am I signing? Because there's no point in just signing away something 2 years later to be like, oh, this is happening, blah, blah. When it was laid out to you before you signed, you had the option not to sign. And I think, it can go two ways, because sometimes I think what happens is, you get people from underserved communities who's like, yo, it's either I'm going to go back to this dangerous, risky, you know what I mean, life that I've been living in the streets or whatever the situation is, or maybe it's something to where it's like you've had a lot of trauma in your life, and you know what I'm saying, it's like the record deal is the better option. So, some people look at that as taking advantage. There's always two sides to the coin, but either way, I think that it's mega important that you read your contracts and have a thorough understanding of what it is that you're signing.
Yeah.
And once you sign that, that's that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like once you sign the contract, it's as much on you as it is on the label. So you can't go into any situation ignorantly and then get upset because you didn't take the time to fully understand what's happening. In your case, where we're starting to talk about not just joint ventures, but we're talking about like different territories, it's important to also understand as much as you can, and your lawyer should be able to explain it if management also needs to be educated on it. It's important to understand like how these different systems work, whether it's the Warner Music Group or UMG or whatever it is. There's all different layers to how, excuse me, each territory will participate. So it really depends. Because the same way that, you might be like, well, how does my artist benefit if I sign in Canada, but then we partner with a US label? Mm-hmm. Some people look at that as like, well, if they haven't invested a whole lot, they don't have a lot at stake. So it's cool. Like if they don't really fuck with the artist like that, you know what I'm saying, they can just let it go to the wayside because they're like, it's Canada, whatever, they got it. But in the same breath, if you're a dope artist, you understand what I'm saying? And it's like they've only invested this much, but you know what I'm saying, like depending again on the structure, might be able to benefit more. So, all right, let me try and uncomplicate it and just speak in layman's terms. Sometimes what happens with territories like Canada and others around the world is somebody might be signed in the US. Yeah. Right? So I'm making it up. Say it's a Taylor Swift or Taylor Swift type artist. Yep. Most of the investment happens in their home territory. Mm-hmm. But when you now go into other territories, territories that you're partnered with, what ends up happening is, say if it's Canada and they're not, Taylor's not signed to Canada, we get all the benefit because we don't have, you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like we have next to nothing in terms of investment, like sure, marketing and so forth, but most of the lion's share is coming from their home territory. We stand to benefit and to gain. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So in the grand scheme of things, think about it like this. If we're manufacturing pants, right? And it's like all the pants are manufactured in the States, all the cost is over there. And somebody just says, hey, I'm giving you these pants. You're getting the pants for $1. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We took care of the $99. You're getting it for $1. Right. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. What it does is it opens up the margins. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like we're still, if somebody buys the pants in our territory.
That's a good point.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a good point because I think a lot of people will think just because it's universal music that it's like just this one big pot of money and then it kind of distributed across.
No. It's very complex. It's very complex. It's very layered. Different situations, different things happen. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't. And, doesn't matter who the president was, what he told you was the truth. But again, it really depends on like what that situation was for your client at the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because yeah, for some it doesn't make sense, but for others it definitely does. But it's not limited to Canada, because I see that happen with Africa.
Yeah.
See that happen with other territories. You know what I'm saying?
That's
where
fair.
It's like they want to either partner up with a different territory, or it's like they're like, you know what, we're going to bypass our home territory to sign directly in the States. It really depends on the situation.
How does an artist become a priority on a label, on a major label? Maybe even dial that back. What does a priority actually mean?
A priority means that you're going to have the focus of the needle movers in that company. Right. You know what I'm saying? The priority means that there's an all hands on deck where they're like, you know, whether it's one artist or 10 artists, we're like, yo, we're putting all of our resources behind this because we believe that this artist right now has the leverage, you know what I'm saying, has the traction and the movement, and it makes sense to pour gas on the fire. Really, that's what it is. And sometimes new artists, they get into a label and they don't understand why artist X, why it's like it seems like the label is doing everything they can to have this artist win, and they're not seeing the same kind of movement.
Right.
But I think again, this is not limited to the music industry though. It's like within any industry, when you're the new kid on the block, you got the new product, whatever, you have to prove yourself. You know what I'm saying? People are not just going to be like, oh, you know, she's cute. Yeah, sure. Let's put all our money into it. Nah. You know, shout out to a man like Darkest Beast. I remember.
Shout out Darkest.
You know, he's
got a book out now, by the way.
That's right. That's right. Make sure you ordered Darkest's book, even the audio book he's got out. But I remember I went to go see him one time. And shout out to all the mentors around the world that ever just took time to sit down with me and, you know what I mean, show me some game. But he's like, yo, think about it like this. He was like, I remember we got to think about how we invest in artists much differently. Two things. He's like, Kardi, if I went to the bank tomorrow just as a regular guy and said, yo, I have this artist. His name is Ruiz. He's fire.
Colombian.
Matches. You know what I'm saying?
Head to toe.
Yo, I need $1 million. The bank is gonna look at him and be like,
link me.
They're just gonna the door is that way. It's not a thing. They're gonna be like, okay, well, what are you putting up against that? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how are you gonna guarantee that we're gonna get our money back?
It's an investment.
Nah, but like imagine he's just like, nah, but I'm telling you, it's vibes. Like the streets love him. The bank will be like, word, all right, cool, whatever.
Right.
He's like, people don't understand that that's what record labels do all the time. When people come through the door, and doesn't matter what it is, it could be a super refined pop artist or like the most grimy whatever, like, you know what I mean, kid from the streets. At the end of the day, they're going to do what they got to do. Like, sure, some people will run a P&L, you know, profit and loss exercise to try and make sense of it. But the reality is that we're like, yo, we believe that just based on this person's talent alone, that we're going to see a return on our investment.
Right.
And it's not like as if the artist flops, all of a sudden they're going to take the artist's house or whatever. It's like if it flops, the company writes it off.
I always do hear that term that says like, it's a bad loan or a bad investment that you're taking from the label. And that doesn't like connect to me because that's a loan you don't have to pay back.
Two ways. I understand why people do say that though, because the thing is, how they're looking at it, right?
Well,
from the artist.
The only downside to that is what I was going to say, because I just think about that in terms of like your credit doesn't get fucked, but in the real world. But what it does fuck you over with is you are now more than likely tied into a situation as an artist, and you can't get out of that deal unless you do have a good lawyer, a contract that can help you get kind of through that. Somebody in the building that is like your champion, because if you do have people in the building that really mess with you, but it didn't work out, then they'll figure it out for you. But that's where I see that it could be beneficial or it could be complicated for the artist to get out of a situation and just kind of have their hands tied. Because I know you've been through that a couple of times, if I'm not mistaken, as well,
For
too,
it.
right?
Yeah. I mean, listen, thank God I've never
As an artist. Yeah.
I've never really been in a situation to where on the major label side to where my hands have been tied for real.
Yeah.
Publishing, yes. Publishing, I got
Right.
locked in for mad long. And, rest in peace to Dean Cameron. Dean Cameron gave me an opportunity to release an album at a time where I needed, like, I think one more project to be able to get out of my publishing deal. And I was locked in for a long time. And then after I put that joint out, I was able to be free and clear from publishing. But outside of that, I've been blessed, like I said, to have amazing legal representation from, I would say from day one. I did have a very trash, I won't mention her name, but I had a trash Canadian lawyer when I first started. And it was a very good example. I'm a very, very big believer in God, by the way. So
Right.
I believe that God showed me that at that time so that when the big opportunities came, I knew, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
I knew how to approach them. I knew when to be weary, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when to really think about things. But just going back to when we're talking about the deals, the thing about major label deals is, one, we live in a time where deals are taking different forms and different shapes. So it's not the same as like everything is just living within this box when it comes to deal structure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of leverage that artists have right now. And I think especially because they have access to so many different ways to get their music out, I think even though it might be a slow evolution, there is an evolution in the way that some deals are structured. You feel what I'm saying? So whether you're an artist that has all the leverage or you have savvy representation, there is a way to make sure that you can participate. And I still think, or else I wouldn't work with them, I still think there's an extreme value with partnering with a label, as long as you know what I'm saying, like you do all the necessary groundwork with your lawyer to make sure that what you want and what you need is in that contract.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, there's two sides to it. I know people that talk about...
And I agree to that. I think a lot of people think that I'm anti-label, but I'm not. I'm just like anti-bad deal.
For sure.
That's it.
That's me too.
Yeah.
That's me too, because don't listen, don't get it twisted. Any corporation, at the end of the day, and I tell my artists this all the time, like their main goal is to exploit you.
Yes.
But the thing is, it's like you can't look at that as a bad thing. That means that the gift that you have is something that is sought after by somebody. So when you go into a deal with your eyes open, knowing what that relationship is, you know what I'm saying? Then you know better how to have a better relationship. You can't think that you're gonna go in there and like, I don't know, all of a sudden they're just going to treat you like a king and it's going to be this way and that way. You have to understand what the nature of the relationship is. And once you understand that, then you know how to be savvy, you know how to navigate. And I think that's what's really, really important. And you're seeing a lot of amazing artists in this day and age start to flourish is because they do take the time to learn about the business, to understand the industry and what it is that they're getting into.
Yeah, I agree. It's more important than ever, it seems like. I found, look, when you're in the system working with the major labels, it's great if you can have a relationship with the president. But I think one of the most important relationships as an artist manager, and even an artist as well too, to ensure that you have a strong relationship with the product manager. Because that person is going to be, in many ways, your champion in the building, along with the A&R. But this person, product manager, for those who don't know, is the person that's basically talking to all the departments in the label to ensure that things are moving along for the artist. And I find that that's a really strong relationship. Would you find that there's other people in the building that management and artists should be making sure that they're...
All of them.
Okay, so
all of them. And here's why. I'm not just saying that to say it.
Yeah.
I really want to, like, with our conversation, try and be as like straight to the point as possible, because I want people to like be able to take things from what we're saying and apply it to what they're doing.
Yep.
Even though these people work at the big bad label or the amazing magical label or whatever, here's the thing that's interesting. These are all people. We are all people.
Yep.
So it's like, you might be like, yeah, and I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong. It's absolutely right. But the reality is that it's not just the product manager, because you know what it is? Sometimes it's that dude you pass his desk all the time. He's working on the project, but you might look at it as an insignificant role. What you don't realize is that, maybe that kid over there, it's not glamorous, but he's the one in a pinch. He's the one that's going to work a little bit longer to make sure that your record gets ingested on time because your artist fucked off and didn't hit the deadline. So in order to get your record out and hit algorithms, it needs to be ingested into the system at a certain time. So that kid that you don't pay any attention to is actually your fucking key.
That's a great point.
Into a lot of incredible things. Maybe sometimes that girl that sits in front of the CEO's desk, you know what I mean? Like you give her a high five on your way in, but you don't really have a relationship.
Yeah.
Sometimes what you don't understand is that the CEO might come out of his office one day and say, boy. And his assistant might say to him, yo, what's going on? Man, there's these two artists and I'm in a tight situation because it's like, I want to be able to support both, but we only have the resources to push one. And it's like, I don't know which one to push right now. That person might be like, you know what? I really love Ruiz. Ruiz is a really dope guy. He has incredible music, but he's actually a good person. And the CEO might be like, you know what? You're right. I really do rock with this artist. This artist is actually, shows a lot of love to us, to the company, and does all the things while this other person, you know what I'm saying? They're cool, but they're not as hands-on and they're not as gracious with everybody that works at the label.
To that point, actually, funny enough, that reminds me of when I was managing Jessie and Byron, who still manages Jessie and myself, we were going through the bidding war. And I remember spending some time at Santa Monica at Lucien Grange's office, meeting with him.
Yeah.
And he had an executive assistant who was really nice, really helpful, always very accommodating to us. And I never thought nothing of it, but we just thought, she was really cool. And it was always good vibes with her. She turns out to be Olivia Rodrigo's first manager when she put out driver's license, Kristen Smith. And you just never know where somebody's going to end up. That's not the reason why to build a relationship with the person, but to your point.
Yes.
It's so important. You just never know who is doing what in that building. But I love that analogy there of
shout out to I don't need Antuma. We'll cut it out if this is not supposed to be for public consumption. But Tuma used to work at, I don't know if it's when he was at MTV or BET, one of the places, shout out to Tuma Basa,
shout out to
worldwide
Tuma.
legend.
Yes.
But I remember, I think it was when he was working with Butterman. I think that's how the story goes. Tuma, don't worry about if it's inaccurate, but the main point is the main point. And they had this intern and, whatever, intern doing intern stuff. And then one day they come in for a meeting and it was an all hands on deck. And then in walks the intern. And they're like, yo, the fuck is the intern? What is the intern doing? And it turned out, I'm pretty sure that Tuma told me that the intern was Scooter Braun.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the thing is, it's like, you shouldn't make relationships transactional.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, I'm going to be cool to this guy because I might get this or yada, yada, yada.
Right.
I think what we're talking about also when you look at specifically my career, the reason why there's not a lot of people from my era who are still active and thriving is because it's like, for me, what you get now, this is the same way that I interact with CEOs,
right.
The same way I interact with artists, product managers, people in accounting, in business affairs, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like I sleep very well because I try to be a good dude to everybody. You know what I'm saying? And I think throughout my career, I've been able to, achieve a legacy of being the bridge and helping connect worlds, connect energies, connect, all types of things. But I think while still, maintaining my values and my morals. And I think a lot of times, like, people throw that out the window for an opportunity.
No, that's
you know what I mean? And it's super important within business
Very important.
Because I think what it is I've seen so many times people just take that match, toss it over their shoulder and burn the bridge.
Yeah.
Because they're like, hey, I'm on my way to the promised land.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's super important within business because I think what it is I've seen so many times people just take that match, toss it over their shoulder and burn the bridge.
Yeah.
Because they're like, hey, I'm on my way to the promised land. You know what I'm saying? And the biggest people in the world, literally, like, there's a lot of people that get to the promised land, but they don't realize it's kind of like the glaciers nowadays, you know what I'm saying, to where it's shrinking and shrinking, and sometimes you got to jump off and head back where you came from, even if it's just for a time, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, you know, there's some people to where it's like, yo, when they're climbing back down the ladder, some people are like, nah, bro. Like,
no, I don't have time for you.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
because they don't remember. It's like you remember the feeling of dealing with that person more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And I think at the end of the day, it's, you know, within this industry, we talk a lot about,
and it's small. This industry, incredible.
it's listen, we talk a lot about, like, you know, the boardrooms. We talk a lot about contracts and all the business stuff. But the reality is, like, 98% of these people are literally they're just people that at some point in time they were in the playground.
Yeah,
At some point in time they got their heart broken.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? At some point in time they lost out on that big opportunity, or the girl got away. And as crazy as, like, people would say, what does that have to do with the manager's playbook, and what does it have to do with you know, talks about the industry?
it's a good plug.
You know,
Manager's
the
Playbook. There you go. Appreciate you.
The
Kardi.
reality is that, fam, like, you know, you talk about Lucy and Green. Shout out to Lucy. And I remember the first time I was able to be on a Zoom with him. And rightfully so, people are very, like, when it comes to Lucy, and people are like,
Lucy.
we got to get it right.
All the time.
And I remember I was on this Zoom, and I remember I said to him, I said, Lucian, and this is in front of the whole company. I said, Lucian, I have to ask a question that a lot of people wanted to ask you, but nobody really has the gumption, the balls to ask you. And he's like, you know, what is it? And I said, yo, how can a man get tickets to your after party for the Grammys, my guy? Like, and he just busts out laughing because people don't talk to Lucian like that. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
And the thing is,
That's
it's
good.
like, you know, he laughed and he was just like, yo, man, like, he appreciated the energy. You feel what I'm saying? Like,
story.
he doesn't play around. He doesn't have time to waste.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I said, it doesn't matter who it is. At the end of the day, some people are well guarded, but at the end of the day, people are people.
People, yeah.
People are humans. You know what I'm saying? And I remember shortly after that, I had reached out and I said, reached out to Lucian's office and I said, the next time I'm in LA, I would love to be able to connect for 20 minutes. And I was shot in the dark because, you know, Lucian's like, bro, he runs literally the whole empire. And
Across the globe.
they hit me back and they're like, hey, listen, come through in 2 weeks, like at such and such a time. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's just based on, again, it's just based on being able to meet at a regular common denominator. You feel what I'm saying?
I do.
And I think a lot of the times, that's why I'm able to rock out with so many different people, because I'm not transactional.
Yeah.
I am also not inauthentic. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can tell when people are
You're very
pouring it on heavy.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm one of them people, bro, where it's like my G, like, I'm going to talk to you like this,
Right.
you know what I mean? Just regular.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're one of those people where it's superficial to where it's like, you got to see what Kardinal can do for you, that's cool, but I'm probably not going to call you again, or
You see through it, you know, that's just
I
not
see
your-
through
yeah.
it and it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Me personally,
Yeah.
I think that it has been something that's been super successful. And no matter who it is in the industry, the majority of the people that I deal with understand that, like, nah, like, excuse me, Kardi's not really like the rest. And I love the fact that I'm able to be an artist and an executive, because just going back to where I told you to stick a pin in it loose when we were talking about Ray Daniels, it's the scientist and the magician.
Nice.
So what it is with scientists, there's a formula, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you deal with a scientist, there's a formula to get what it is that you're trying to get the answer for. You know what I mean? So whether you're a chemist or whatever, in order to get this solution, you got to do all the tests, and then eventually you're going to document A minus E X squared, blah, blah, blah. You're going to get to this.
Yeah.
Whereas the magicians are going to take off a hat and pull a bunny out.
Mm-hmm.
The scientists in the room are going to say, yo, how did he get that bunny out of the hat? There's got to be some type of theory as to how this works.
Some type of formula.
Some type of formula. The artists are the magicians. The creatives are the magicians. The executives are the scientists. So when you go into these boardrooms, when you go into these situations, they're always looking for the formula. There's got to be some kind of path to get to the answer.
Yeah.
But what they don't realize a lot of times is it's the magic. You know what I'm saying? When artists enter the room, we're going to pull them bunnies out the hat. And they're going to be like, how did you do that? And we're going to tell you, hey, there's no formula to this. You either know how to do the magic or you don't.
Yeah.
So for me, what's ill is I'm that dude that is going to have on the lab coat. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm going to understand the formula, but I'm going to mix it up with that magic all the time. And that for me has been, I think, what's been super, super invaluable. Like you can't really put a figure on what it is that I can contribute. And I think that's very important, whether you're a manager, an executive, anybody that's looking to do business with somebody, you always have to look at it from the perspective of what can you contribute to the situation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Some people,
not what you can gain. This is what what G told me, Gordon Dillard, in the last convo that we had. He said along the lines of the only way to receive is to give.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only way. So to your point, what can you contribute to the situation that can make it helpful for the other person?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think when they talk about useful, you have to understand that it's like you have to be used in order to be useful. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's part of it. And that's the other thing that I also had to make peace with in this game, bro, that is very difficult, but at some point in time, you're going to have to reconcile with the fact that, like, when you're the bridge to anything, the function of a bridge, people are going to walk on you. People are going to trample on you. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, when you look at a bridge for what it is, it's something, it's a trustworthy, strong, like if me and you leave out of here now and we got to get to somewhere where we're going to go on a bridge, we're not going to question it.
Right.
We're going to be like, oh, we got to go over the Cherry Street Bridge to get to where we're going. And I think for me, in being the bridge, I understand that, yeah, sometimes you're going to get walked on. Sometimes you're going to get ran over. You're going to get trampled on, thrown under the bus, on the bridge, all of these things. But, you know, it's part of the journey. You know what I mean? And it's what you got to deal with. And I think
But you're such an artist though. Mm-hmm. You really do care. Not to cut you off, but I mean,
too much sometimes, to be honest.
Well, but I know this for a fact because there's been countless times you and I will talk for whatever reason. It's like 3:30 or 4 in the morning, and like we'll talk about for an hour and a half, 2 hours about artists and you specifically trying to figure out how to help a specific artist. Numerous times over the years you've done, and I was thinking about this today actually. I'm like, how does someone have such an incredible 30-year career and still doing it at a high level, right? I think it's the authenticity. You are who you are. You don't fake that, and you really do give a fuck. Like you care. I don't think there is such a thing as caring too much, because that's what's been able to give you so much success in this business.
Let me tell you something. It's so I'm not a person that really, you know me, so it's like, and sorry, I don't want to keep doing this LL Cool J thing, so don't worry about me putting on some lip balm. Black people around the world, you know I'm doing the right thing right now, because man's not trying to have no dry lips on the podcast. I don't want for that to be the piece that goes viral. You understand what I'm saying?
Just so you guys know, this is
word up. You know what I mean? I don't know how LL Cool J does it, to be honest, but me and Cool J, shout out to James Todd. You know what I mean? Def Jam album out right now, but that's not what we're doing.
I was gonna say we could cut this out, but we might as well just keep it in.
No, this is real. You know what I'm saying?
Right here.
Black people, we use lip balm. You know what I'm saying? Word up.
I don't know that plight.
But nah, my bro, like, the reality of the situation, fam, is that, like, people have told me a long time ago, they're like, yo, I understand why certain artists are cold. I understand why certain artists are like, yo, I only mess with the people in my circle.
For sure.
Bun out anybody outside of my circle.
Yeah.
If you're not part of my very, very exclusive team, I'm not rocking with you, because there's so many times where artists get taken advantage of, artists get burnt, just so many different things to where it's like it turns people cold.
For sure.
And I remember several times, I have been burnt, I have been used, I have been misunderstood, all of the rest. But my mentors are like, yo, you cannot let those people change who you are, because who you are is what makes you so incredibly engaging, what makes you so attractive to different business opportunities, because like, what I'm saying, you are a dope person. I remember when I used to be managed by Mr. Morgan, and Mr. Morgan, before we used to go into a big meeting or go into a certain scenario, he'd be like, okay, just make sure you do the Kardi thing. And I was just like,
what's the Kardi thing?
I don't know what that is. It's like, don't worry about it. Here we go. And then we just go into the room, and to this day,
shout out Mr. Morgan.
Shout out Mr. Morgan. Mr. Morgan's never used to say like what it was, but what I understand it to be is that he just meant, just be yourself, because who you are is a very like charismatic, engaging, funny. I don't really have a filter.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
clearly by
well,
what you just did there.
But you know what I'm saying? It's just like, I'm a person that, as cliche as it sounds, my bro, especially at the age that I'm at right now, is where my whole life is really about how can I have as much peace in my life?
Right.
How can I do do only the things that I'm passionate about and believe in? And how can I leave a mark? How can I keep building on my legacy? Those are like the tent poles or the pillars of my life right now. So it's like anybody that you ever hear me associate with or see me working with is because I think that these people are so deserving of everything that I could possibly give to them. And for me, there's no barrier. Like, you already know what it is. And for, some of you guys that are out there that don't know, sometimes people, they'll only go but so far. You feel what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's like, people might be like, you might link up with somebody that knows Drake, Jay-Z, Rihanna, Scooter Braun, Chris Smith, yada, yada, yada. But they're only, you know what I'm saying? So you might be like, oh, I'm going to connect with this guy because he knows everybody and whatever. But those people are like, yo, pump your brakes, fam. Like, you think I'm going to introduce you to these people?
Right.
Nah, my G. Like, this is where you live. You feel what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I'm one of those people, and it's to a fault, but I'm one of those people that, like, if you rock with me, I usually have 2 feet in and I'm neck deep in your life and your career and what it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, random example, and I'm not bringing this example up to like pat myself on the back, but to me, I'll give you a dope example of, like, for me, I was so happy for the artist at the time. So I get a call the other day from Usher's camp that says, yo, Usher wants to bring you out tomorrow. It's Sunday. He's like, he wants to bring you out tomorrow night. I'm like, tomorrow? He's like, yeah, tomorrow. I'm like, yo, that's fire. Like, first of all, there's already anxiety because I had first met Usher with Dave Chapelle back in 2014.
Yeah.
And what's crazy about that is it was, I think it was 2016 when NBA All-Star was in Toronto.
Oh, that's when you met Dave?
That's when I formally met Dave.
Oh, okay, crazy.
So I was at his show. Usher was at his show. D-Nice was at his show.
Yeah.
And I remember we went to Chapelle's dressing room after, and we were just kicking it for like an hour. Like, it was just dope. You know what I'm saying? I'm in there. I'm like, yo, this is wild. My wife's pregnant. And I'm in there with Usher and Dave and everybody. And Dave says to me, he goes, yo, will you perform at this, I'm having this what is it called again? Oh my gosh, I haven't done it in a couple of years. Juke joint. Will you perform at this Juke joint I'm doing tomorrow in Toronto? I'm like, yeah, sure. He's like, yeah, I just asked Usher, and Usher's gonna come and perform too. I'm like, with Usher? He's like, yeah. Like, remember, I'm just meeting Dave, and the next day he wants me to do a show with Usher.
With Usher. That's crazy.
So I show up, and there's gonna be a full circle why this story makes sense. But I show up, and I'm like, saying to my guys, I'm like, yo, this is wild. Like, we're about to perform with Usher for Dave Chapelle. I walk in, Usher just finishes performing. He's doing his last song. And he's like, I love you. And I'm like,
Oh shit, you're next.
I have to go on after Usher? Bro, so I ended up going on, but killed it though. Like tore it down. And I remember the look in Dave's face. He's like, oh man. He's like, nah, we got to do this over and over and over again. And it's really from that little 2-day interaction. Because I didn't know Dave like that. He was, God bless him, when he was up here filming, like back in the day, he's like, he came up here and he's like, yo, he became a fan of my music. You know what I mean? He was like, yo, Cypher put me on. Talib had introduced him to my music, and he'd been a fan from them times. Oh, wow, so he's like, yo, I felt like you were family because Cypher used to DJ on the Chapelle show. So he's like, I always felt like we were family, but it's so dope to meet you. Anyways, fast forward now to, and I've seen Usher over the years several times, but I had never performed with him. Like, you understand what I'm saying? And this is Usher coming off of the residency. He's got all eyes on him. Every show that he does in a different territory, it's curated with different people that come out. And he put in the call to me. I'm like, all right, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I said, yo, it would be ill. I put in the call, 876. I said, Massacre, Wagwan.
That's right.
He said, yo, what up? I said, yo, Reggie, can you be in Toronto tomorrow? He's like, tomorrow?
Where was he at?
He was in Jamaica. He was in Kingston.
Wow.
I said, yo, fam. I said, Usher's bringing me out, but yo, I think it would be incredible and unexpected for me to bring you out during my set. The man bought his ticket. One time. So, hey, Usher, Mark Byers, salute. It was a white lie, but I linked them back. I said, yo, I have an artist from Def Jam that just happens to be in town. He's the biggest artist in dancehall, Ray. And Mark was like, yo, send me, you know what I mean? Send me his Instagram, send me this, whatever. And he's like, word, all right, cool. He's like, I'm going to present it. And anyway, long story short.
There's a common thread there with Marks and you telling them that you're going to be somewhere, someone's going to be somewhere, and then you actually showing up, but it's not happening like that. You did the same with Mark Pitts.
Different story, but yes.
Was similar.
Yes.
We'll get to it.
Yep. But anyways, long story short, Massacre flew in, like literally I picked him up at the airport. And by the time we went to the hotel, we had to go to soundcheck. Well, rehearsal. And Usher is a super professional.
For sure.
So, we ran through it a couple times. Then they're like, yo, the boss is coming. And Usher came on stage, loose talk. And, you know what I'm saying? Big daps, hug, whatever. Yo, Kardi, what up? Blah, 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 blah. He's like, yo, so this is what I'm thinking, whatever. I said, yo, Ush. I said, yo, I'm going to bring out somebody during my set. He's like, oh, word? I said, yo, I want you to meet Massacre, biggest artist right now in dancehall, on Def Jam, yada, yada, whatever. And I was like, yo, trust me, the play is going to be crazy when he comes out.
Yeah.
And Usher was like, okay. You know what I'm saying? Because he trust me. You know what I mean? He's like, cool. So we ran through it. And he's like, nah, this is going to be dope. And I remember we left and he called me back. He's like, yo, Kardi, what if, you know what I mean? We sang a little bit of Murder, She Wrote right before we bring out Massacre. I'm like, yeah, that'll be dope. What you mean? And for me, it was a huge risk.
Yeah.
Because Massacre had never been brought out in that context before, in a mainstream context. This is at Scotiabank Arena, sold out.
18,000 people.
You know what I'm saying? And I remember I was kind of sweating buckets because I'm like, ooh, like I really want it to work for him because I don't want him to look crazy. Like we bring him out and the crowd's like, anyway, so we did the whole thing. And I said, did the little speech to Usher. And I said, yo, all the way from Kingston, Jamaica, Toronto, make some noise for Massacre. The place went crazy.
Yeah.
The place went crazy, bro. And what was so dope very quickly was that from the artist side, it was dope because he had never gotten to experience that type of like mainstream, like A-list, like this is Usher.
Yeah.
You understand? Bringing out like
global artists,
a dancehall Kingston, not like crossover yet. Like this is, you
It's
understand?
early days. Yeah, yeah.
And it was such a great look for him, and it gave him a dope perspective, which I loved, because that is, you can't, you know what I mean? Like that is something that you have to go through with the artist and experience. And for him to be like, yo, like, Brethren, this was like something that I've never experienced this before in my life. And I know I can't tell him that. He can experience that through a conversation.
Right.
You have to live it. But most people are not going to share that moment.
I was gonna say, you made a moment that was about you, about somebody else, another
That's
artist.
right.
That's a testament to who you are.
But I love that though.
yeah.
I love that personally. You know what I'm saying?
You've always been like that. I mean, I think infamously, before Drake was on, you took Drake's music to Akon when you were signed to Convict.
Yeah.
Now, for whatever reason, he passed on it. But that's something that you've always seen, though. You've always had a really good eye for talent, an incredible eye for artists when they're starting to rise.
Well, shout out to Theo. Right before I took the job at Universal Canada with Randy, and I went to his office, I was talking about it. You know what I mean? Like the possibility of doing this executive thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, yo, you realize you've been an A&R your whole career. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yo, you guys did that song with Sean Paul. The man went multi-platinum the next year following. You have songs with
That's
Estelle
right.
from Time.
With Baby Blue Sound Crew.
You have songs with Estelle from Time.
That's right.
She shortly after went on to do American Boy multi-platinum with John Legend in them because she was signed to John Legend.
Rihanna.
It's like, yo, you're the first person to show me about Boy Wonder. Boy Wonder's first placement, his first major label placement was with me. You know what I'm saying? Alex the Kid, who's like now Imagine Dragons and everybody else, his first placement was with me. You know what I'm saying? That was something. I was in London and he handed me a CD. And if you know about Alex the Kid, like he was finessing it. I was like, all right, cool. But he had a dope joint. And you know what I mean? His first placement was with me. If you look at, just a lot, like just
Rihanna, right?
Yeah, but that was more of a friend thing. Shout out to Mark Jordan.
Still.
Yeah. Like Mark Jordan had recently just been let go from Columbia Records, where I think he was president of Black Music. And he was a friend, you know what I'm saying? Because I was managed by Figure 4, so that's Mr. Morgan, Saul Guy, and Duguay at the time. And you know what I mean? Like that was family. And I remember being in my studio. I still remember. And I get a call from him. And he's like, yo, Kardi, I found this girl. She's this young girl. She's beautiful. She can sing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, word? And I was like, yo, what's her name? And he's like, Rihanna. I was like, I don't know if that's gonna work. Does she have another name? But you know what I'm saying?
Can't always get them right.
Yeah, but it's one of them ones where he's like, yo, fam, I have a meeting with Jay-Z in like 2 weeks.
Right.
And I would love for you to be able to jump on like some of these demos like before I go in there. And I was like, all right, cool. You know what I'm saying? Like it was who that, Jay-Z outside?
That's it. He said, don't talk about me,
Right. But no, like I remember getting on a couple joints and yeah, one of the demos that we did for that meeting ended up being on her first album. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, with Rihanna, we had that, that connection when she was a kid. She was like 14 or 15 at the time. But it's like, yeah, listen, I think at the end of the day, I don't want to say it's a gift and a curse, it's a gift and a lesson. Because sometimes being early on things, like too early, isn't always the wave to be on.
How come?
Because if within our industry there's a lot of dick riding that has been going on for decades and forever and a day.
You don't say.
People, you know what I mean? People are more, especially in this day and age with data, people don't understand that like when we're talking about data, you're talking about something that has already happened. You're thinking it's very reactionary.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? If me and you have an artist and somebody is talking about, well, let's look at the data. You're talking about something that has happened already. You're not even talking about the future. You understand what I'm saying? I'm one of those people that I'm a visionary. And one of the things that somebody told me to make me feel better is like, yo, being a visionary is it's a lonely existence, because if everybody had the same vision that you do and everybody was able to understand it, you wouldn't be a visionary. You'd just be like everybody else. So it's like when you are a visionary and you can see things before other people, it's difficult. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a gift. So it's like you're talking about like with Drake and Akon or whatever. Like, yo, like when Drake came to my crib and he was playing me this music, I'm like, yo, this is incredible. Like, I can see the vision, but other people are like, but he's the guy from Degrassi. I'm like, who cares?
Right.
Are you listening? Can you not hear this? Like, you could.
I've said this before. I thought the same thing too.
Everybody has, to me anyway, how I hear things. Everybody has a foundation of exceptional and incredible gifts that they have to offer. And the thing is, me and you both, we just went, respect you on the invite, but you invited me to go see the premiere for Piece by Piece. And I remember Pharrell in the movie, he was saying how, yo, as a young black boy, I remember just staring at the speaker, and, he's like, the way that I would see things, I would see colors and I'd hear it. And it's like music resonated with him in a certain way that he thought that everybody had that gift. It wasn't until later that he understood that this was a gift that was imparted on him. And I think that's what's interesting, is that like, everybody don't hear that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yo, shout out to Susan Carroll. I remember there was this artist from Texas that she was actually the first person that I signed to Def Jam. And I remember early out, like, I asked some of my like musical experts, I'm like, yo, you ever heard of this girl, Susan Carroll? And they're like, yo, I think I heard about it. So, oh yeah, I heard one joint or two joints. And they were reacting to me like this was some random, like, regular artist. You know what I'm saying? And I remember, it didn't discourage me, but I remember like kind of squinting my eyes like, that's very weird. Because to me, I heard elements of Whitney. I heard elements of Jasmine Sullivan. I heard elements of Amy Winehouse, of like all the greats from the minute that I first heard her. You know what I'm saying? I think the joint that really made me fall in love with Susan Carroll's gift was, I think it was a joint called Magnetic. And I just heard it and I was like, nah, like this is different. This is different. And I say that to say, like, when it comes to be able to hear things and to hear it before other people or to see it before other people, I actually enjoy it, bro. I love it. It's not always fruitful. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes
it
people
goes in a different direction.
Sometimes people they might fall on their face and you guys sever the relationship, and then it's like, they pick it up with somebody else and that's when it goes. So sometimes being super early is not always the best situation. Sometimes the artist doesn't know who they are. Sometimes they're not educated enough. There's a multitude of different reasons as to, why an artist may not be able to pop.
Right.
But to me, I love being able to see people in their early stages and hearing it and being like, yeah, there's something incredible here. And that's why I love working with Tunji. Because one of the things that, and Tunji, like, not going to talk too much about Tunji and all that stuff, but I'm talking about the greatness of him, is that Tunji is somebody that, like, is really about the gift first. Like, if I play, like, Tunji's not going to he's never asked me how many followers do they have. He's never asked me how many streams do they have.
That's dope.
If I press play on something, I'm like, yo, Tunji, this is it. And I think 9 times out of 10 thus far, he's been like, yo, this shit is fire, Kardi. What are we doing? You know what I'm saying? And that's the type of energy that I love in the industry. Those are the type of people that I want to work with. You know what I'm saying? Those people that are visionaries, but also are passionate about the music.
Yeah.
And people think that they're not necessarily all the way wrong, but people think that, like, all of the industry is just like industry folks and people that, you know what I'm saying, are just like in it for the buck and are not in it for the art and for the love. And when you're able to find, the Tunjis of the world and the other folks, a lot a lot more than one would think. But when you're
That's
able
very
to
true.
find those people, you got to hold on to them. You got to nurture those relationships, because those are the things that are going to allow you to have a long career, within this industry, both on the executive side or the creative side.
Mm-hmm. How do you, and this might be a difficult question to answer, but what is it that sticks out to you when you hear an artist that's dope? How do you identify a great artist?
This is one of those things that I wish there was. It's the whole
Scientist magician thing,
versus
right?
magician thing.
Okay, well,
Because it's like,
how do you like the magic part of it then?
mm-hmm.
Is there anything specific that
Me and you have gone into a room before, and don't ask me for the specific instance, but we've definitely gone somewhere before, and we've heard somebody and given each other the look, because we know that magic is there.
Yeah.
It's an intangible. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's not necessarily like always a similar cadence to certain things, or something that the only thing that feels the same is like when a lot of times it's my measure too, is like when Quincy Jones was talking about when they were making Thriller, and they're like, yo, how do you choose the songs? And Quincy Jones was like the ones that give us the goosebumps.
Yeah.
As random as that is, you're like, yo, but this is millions of dollars, and that doesn't matter. What gives us the goosebumps?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What would we bet our house on? What is the thing? Early on in my executive career, shout out to Fraser. I believe Fraser Hill, I think so. Shout out to Fraser anyway. And I remember like I was just trying to learn this A&R thing, like formally. And I said to him, I was like, yo, how do I know like when the artist is worth it? Like, how do I know like when I've made the right decision? And he's like, when they keep you up at night.
Right.
You know what I'm
You wake
saying?
up
He's
and it's
like
3 a.m.
he's
you're
like,
thinking
yo,
about the artist.
when they keep you up at night, when the songs are on repeat, when it's something you can't shake.
Yeah.
He's like, that's when you know.
You know what it is for me? When the song specifically, because it starts with the music. Anytime a song really connects for me, I know what time of day it was. I still remember it. I remember where I was.
Time and place, yeah.
So when you sent me Susan Carroll's music for the first time,
Yes.
I know exactly where I was.
Yes.
I was in my car.
Yeah.
I was driving on Jane Street, going home, and I remember pulling over and texting you and being like, this is incredible. She's super dope. And I'm terrible with song names.
Me too.
But it had this, like, right? There's so many.
Yeah, exactly.
But I remember it had this like Quentin Tarantino type feel to it. Like it just sounded so raw. But
The Case. Shout out to Harmony Samuels on that.
shout out to
one.
Harmony. What was the song?
The Case.
The Case.
Yep.
I thought it was incredible. Yeah. So that's the identifier for me. But that's dope. Yeah.
But listen, that's
Also, by the way, sorry, just to circle back on the Dave Chapelle thing.
yeah.
The story, and I don't know if you remember this, but remember it was Grammy week. We were in Los Angeles, and then we clicked up. You were with your peoples. I was there with my peoples, and then we went to a Spotify event that Tuma had, and then so we linked up there, and then shortly after, everybody's dapping you in there. I'm like seeing, like everyone knows Kardi over here. This is incredible, right? And this is my first time hanging out with you in the U.S. and L.A. Anywhere, really, in L.A. and America. And then we go, you're like, yo, we're going to pull up to Burna Boy's release party.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. And then
that was a fun night.
That was a great night.
That was
this is
a
where
dope
I'm going
night.
with the story, right? And then we go to Burna Boy's, we pull up. He's about to go on stage and perform, sees you, and then parts the sea, and a whole bunch of people move him over, and he beelines to you, daps you up, gives you the biggest hug. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know these guys knew each other. I was standing right beside you. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. These guys know each other. Like, Burna Boy, like, that's family, it looks like. I'm standing. And then he leaves, goes on the stage. You lean over to me, you're like, that's the first time I met him. Ever, yeah. And I'm like, what? I'm like, this guy just showed you something. Yeah, he just told me he's like a big fan. He's just inspired by the music I made. I was like, say word. And then he's on stage performing. He's done or he's wrapping up. And then you lean over to me and you go, yo, we're going to go to Dave's. You want to pull up? I'm like, Dave who? You look at me crazy like, Chapelle. I'm like, oh, how am I supposed to know it's Dave Chapelle? I'm like, I don't know this shit. I'm like, that's not the name I was expecting. Dave. And I'm like, I was like, yes, I will go to Dave's home for a Grammy after party. And we go, and while we're pulling up over there, I forget the actor's name.
Oh yes, Dion Cole.
Yes, Dion Cole stops you, hails you up. Everybody's stopping you out there and just showing you mad love. And then we pull up there and Jadena's performing his record.
That's
Classic
right.
Man. Melanie Fiona starts performing her record.
Yeah,
and
everybody.
It's a great night.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a great night. I remember I pulled up my phone for a second. Maybe I won't put this on there. I put my phone for a second. Dave looks at me and goes, with his bogie in his mouth, cigarette. He's like, put it down.
Yeah.
Put the phone out. And I was like, my bad.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. Dave is one of those people, like I specifically remember him saying, yo, Kardi, we got to enjoy the twilight of our youth. You know what I'm saying? And that's, if you know about Dave, I don't really listen, Dave is like my friend. I don't care if he does another show ever again in his life. I hope he does, but if he never does anything ever again, he is just one of the most intelligent, one of the most generous, just awesome human beings. You know what I'm saying? And it's like anybody that I bring around him is people that I think are deserving to be around his energy. You know what I'm saying? Because like he's just super dope. And I know what he's done for my life just in terms of the inspiration. So I know that anybody he's around, people are going to be able to just enjoy in the happiness and the joy and the dope vibes, you know what I'm saying, that comes with parring with Dave. You know what's interesting that I think is dope to note, not just about America, but us being Canadians moving around the world. My story has been interesting because we now live in a generation where if it's not on the gram or socials or whatever, it didn't happen. I feel very lucky. I don't actually believe in luck. I'm very blessed to have lived before the internet was so deeply part of our DNA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know what that vibe is like before, and I know what it's like afterwards, you know? And I think what's interesting about where we come from is because people have stayed so local, and at a time when I was literally moving around the globe, a lot of people couldn't see past their neighborhood.
Right.
So by the time the internet came in, all they're being able to see now is like the remnants of all the things that we had been doing for mad years. You know what I'm saying? And Tiny Temper, I don't know what, shout out to Tiny Temper, yo. I don't know what happened, because remember he had that big smash that went global. And I remember it was so funny when I met him, he was like, bro, I thought you were from London.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I was like, nah, I just used to be over there all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, when it comes to so many different places, like.
And you would think he would know because he's from there.
He's like, fam, I literally, when I first heard of you, I thought you was from London.
Right.
But it's just because like I used to go there all the time. I used to be inspired. We used to do shows, this, that, and the next thing. We used to go to France all the time, like a dozen times a year. We used to go to Germany, you know, Spain, all these incredible places around the world. But this is all pre-Instagram,
of course,
pre-social media. And the thing about me was now it's normalized, but I was never one of those people that felt comfortable walking around with like a camera guy or like somebody always taking pictures. And I'm like, yo, bro, get out of here. Like you're making it's awkward. Now it's regular.
Right.
But at that time, like before it became a norm in society, like I didn't document enough things because we were literally just out there living it. And the reason why I say that's important is because a lot of times my most important piece of advice that I give to people from here is to leave here, to go out physically and experience the world.
Yeah.
You cannot sure, technically, because of the internet, you can double click and get your music out. But
and let's be clear, because I say the same thing. That doesn't mean abandon Canada or Toronto.
No, it means travel.
Travel.
It means travel.
Yes, experience.
I was in the Atlanta airport and I saw my guy DJ Vice. And DJ Vice, you know, we looked at each other and he's like, man, we're still here. And he said, here's what's interesting. And this just goes back to when you're talking about knowing the product manager, and I was telling you to know everybody.
Yeah.
DJ Vice said to me, he's like, fam, I'm a DJ and I'm still going. Here's the thing. anybody on this train, we're taking the train to our gate or whatever. If you're in Atlanta, you know what I'm talking about. He was like, yo, anybody has access to the same music I do now. It's not like before, where you had to go to record shops, so you had to make an investment, and only I had certain records and other people couldn't get it or whatever. He's like, yo, anybody can get everything for free now. He's like, you know why I'm still here? Is the human interaction, is traveling to go to the place and putting eye to eye with the promoter, dapsing him, maybe even breaking bread, you feel what I'm saying? And building a relationship with the promoter in New York, in London, in Mumbai, in Dubai, in all those different places, like traveling and building that human connection.
Right.
That's why I'm still here. He's like, yo, I get paid whatever I get paid, but yo, they could pay somebody like $500 to come and play the same music that I'm playing. You understand what I'm saying? A lot of times what makes people able to have that longevity and have that career is to go out there and build those relationships. It's not about who you know, but it's about who knows you. I might have been able to say, yo, I went and met Ruiz, and then somebody might circle back 3 weeks later and say, yo, you know Kardinal? And you're like, who's that?
Right.
You might have forgot. I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Yep.
those people that remember you because you made such an impact, or, you know, something memorable, or they just loved and vibed with your spirit. You know what I mean?
And it's to that point as well too. I think what's lost as well is the building of the community, even at a local level. But you can now bring it to the world, because I think a lot of people think if they need to be popping online or it didn't happen. But for me, and especially the music we listen to, the space that we're in, you gotta build the culture within your city as well too. Like, you really gotta connect with people. You gotta make sure that people are. This is how I feel. So, because if that community starts to now say, oh, I know who this artist is, or they start talking highly about you, and then when you get on, they love to brag about that. But you want to build that community, and you did that in a very organic way back then. Talk to me about the importance of Fresh Arts program. Because there was a lot of people that came out of Fresh Arts, and I think it's important to talk about it because people forget.
Or they never knew.
Or they never knew. But in Toronto, and shout out the Remix Project, but similar to the Remix Project, but this is before Remix, well before. This is 92.
Remix took the Fresh Arts blueprint, literally.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In order to build the foundation
Right.
for Remix.
But Fresh Arts, there was you, there was Julie Black, there's Director X back
So let me
then.
try and tell you real quick, because
Yeah.
Fresh Arts is really important. Even if you weren't in the Fresh Arts program, it made a huge impact on the city at the time. When the LA riots happened, there was a ripple effect, and some of that the same angst, the same way that George Floyd happened in America, but we still felt it up here, is what happened with the LA riots back in, I feel like it was 92.
Yeah.
Might have been 92. 92 or 93, but I feel like it was 92. And I remember, like, you know what I'm saying, like the kids back in, I was in junior high or high school at that time. One of them, doesn't matter. I was in school before university at that time. I was in probably high school. Let's say it's high school. And, you know, I still remember one of my guys is like, we about to riot on Yonge Street. I said, word? He's like, yo, you coming? I was like, nah, I'm not going, you know what I'm saying? But here's what's crazy. I remember, so the riot happened, they looted, smashed,
On Yonge Street?
smash and grab, yeah.
On Yonge Street?
And this is the time when
wow.
they had enough jewelry stores were like right on you. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Smash and grab, stole all kind of things. It was crazy. My boy that I was talking to about it ended up on the cover of Maclean's magazine.
Oh, wow.
They snapped a picture of him while he was down there in the riot, and I could have been right there with him.
Crazy.
Anyway, long story short, it bubbled up to the government, and the government came up with this program that was called Jobs for Ontario's Youth.
Okay.
It was 92. Here's why. It was called Jobs for Ontario's Youth, the JOY program. And basically what it was is they're like, yo, if we're able to create this apprenticeship so that, a lot of times you're not going to get hired because on your resume you don't have anything, because people won't hire you because you're a young person of color or whatever
Right.
reasoning, where you live, your neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You can't get a job without something on your resume, but you can't get something on your resume if you don't have a job. So they said, we're going to do this government initiative to where the government is going to pay the workers minimum wage, and they're essentially going to give free labor to the business owners so that the business owners are able to get, whatever it is they need. So for instance, in 92, I worked at an antique shop in the summertime
Through the program?
through the program. So the business owner was was cleaning all of his antiques. I was organizing things, lifting boxes, doing all the stuff, free labor to him. To me now on my resume, I can put down worked at an antique shop on Parliament or
Crazy.
whatever it was.
Okay.
So that was the first year. Then there was a marriage between the Toronto Arts Council and the provincial government. Bob Ray was the head of the provincial government at the time. So there was the Joy Program and the Toronto Arts Council came together to form this thing called Fresh Arts in 93. In 93, Fresh Arts, it was myself, Marvel, Socrates.
That's right. Yeah.
Rest in peace to Sean Sachs, Kid Cut from Baby Blue, and a host of, there was like, I think maybe 13, 14 of us in total in the music program part of it. In 94, that grew to 100.
Oh, Fresh Arts?
No, just the music program. So we went from having 13 participants to damn near 100 the next year.
Really? But
Yeah.
through the same where was the location?
So initially we were down at like, shout out to Motion and Verl and all them.
I wanted to ask you
I
as
feel
well.
like, where was that first year? I feel like we were down at like either the bottom of Spadina or Bathurst. So like, ugh. It was so long ago, bro. It was literally 30 years ago. Somewhere.
In the
somewhere,
downtown area,
you know
though.
what? I know exactly where it was. It was in the Toronto Arts Council office space. And that's in the Bathurst and Spadina area downtown. So that's where we were at first, because we were able to be contained in like basically an office
Yeah.
setting.
For the
Then-
13 of you.
Yeah, the next year in the summertime, we literally took over High Park High School. There was I believe it's called High Park, but it was in the High Park area, and we literally occupied the high school during the summertime when school was out. So there were so many of us. That's where we, that's where we had to operate, and we had mentors from around the city. Anybody from Mastermind to Master T. Oren Isaacs from Basement Studios at the time. This is a time when there wasn't a whole lot of studios.
Say we don't talk about your mastermind. See, here you go, Kardinal. Talking about you.
But yeah, there were so many, there were so many mentors, and it was an incredible time. And it's like, basically what happened was, remember how I told you the first year, I was working at an antique store?
Yeah.
Well, basically what happened was we were mentored for 93, 94 by all these people that taught us about everything in the industry. Like we learned about the different eras of jazz. Like, you know what I'm saying? And at that time we were like, yo, we want to rap, yo.
So let
Like-
me stop you there. The person that was mentoring you all this, Motion.
Yeah, Wendy
Sounds
Brathwaite.
like an unsung hero. I don't know much about her.
1,000%.
Tell me about her.
She was part of a rap group at the time called New Black Nation. Her partner was Tando. Tando went on to, I believe Tando was the first principal of the first Afrocentric school in Canada. She went on to be an educator, but they had a group called New Black Nation. They were down with DJ Power. They had a crew called U-Bad. Like, this is, if you know about Foundation Toronto, like, you talk about old school. I mean, like, these are Foundation Toronto, like, staples.
Yeah.
So, Motion was so dope because, like, she used to teach us about everything, about the civil rights movement. So we learned about the Panthers, the Black Panthers. We learned about all these different things around not just music, but we learned about the politics. We learned about why things mattered. So we thought we were just going to be there to like do our little raps and whatever. But what she was doing was preparing us for life in the entertainment industry. The following year in 94, this is now when you have the introduction of like Julie Black's in there, Little X is in there, Mark Strong, Jay Wise, like all these different people who,
Crazy.
went on to be directors, went on to be people that, were radio personalities, TV, like all these different people were a part of this collective. And in 1995, I kind of broke off and I had my own faction called the Maroon Squad, where I was now the mentor, even though I was a peer mentor because I was the same age as everybody. But the best story that came out of that was we took a trip to New York because we wanted to go network. So we went down and we visited Nervous Records that had Black Moon at the time. We went to go visit, RCA and all these different companies because we wanted to learn. And Little X, he had his demo with him, his video demo, whatever it was called.
Right.
And this was back on when it was on VHS, those video cassettes. And we went to Big Dog. We went to the Big Dog offices, and it was after hours on a Sunday, right before we were going back to Toronto. And this is back when it still used to have the little mail flap in the door.
Yeah.
Like old school, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
what we had in the hood, like when you'd get your mail, somebody just push it through the door.
Yeah.
Which when you think about it, was mad crazy, bro.
They're
Like,
still there. They're still there.
Word?
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway. And I remember
upside
it was
down
it was me and X, and it was in this dark, like New York, building. And he's like, yo, I'm just gonna put it through the mail slot. And we looked at each other and I'm like, go for it.
Right.
And I remember he pushed it in and we heard it bonk, hit the floor. And we were like, all right. And we left.
Yeah.
And a couple weeks later, he got the call from Hype Williams. And that's how he became Hype's intern, and then worked his way up to, being the legend that he is right now.
Yeah.
But that's just one example of like what came from that government program. You know what I'm saying? Was opportunity, was education, was inspiration, all those things. And it's like, that was such a dope time, within the city, you know what I mean? And it was a time you know what? It was proof of concept for things like the remix program and so forth. Because it's like, if you look at the amount of attention, money generated, tourism, everything else that came just from all the personalities from that program, it's like there's no reason why we shouldn't be dumping in many, many more millions of dollars into programs like that right now. Because I think anyway, without getting into the business part of it, I think it is so incredibly important, especially to our ecosystem here in Toronto. Because one of the things that we didn't discuss is how cyclical our ecosystem here is in this country and in this city. There's people that we know, that we both know, so many artists, business owners, and so forth, that have just been going in this circle and have never been able to break out and have that impact moment to where they're recognized, not just even locally, but nationally or internationally.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that we know that, for decades have been trying, and they can't get past that glass ceiling. DJs, managers, artists, A&Rs, every part of the industry. And one of the things that is so dope, again, about why I think I love working with Def Jam currently and with Tunji is the fact that I can, for Skip Marley, I can play him dirt work from Montreal that he's never heard of, but I'm in the studio and Skip will be like, yo, brother, what is? And like, you know what I mean? And like want to cut something to it. Or, you know what I'm saying, play, a Kato beat for Massacre. Or, I need a hook, so I'm going to call Sarah Diamond and say, yo, could you try and pen something on this for me? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like I'm able to like, when I say quietly, it's only because it's like it's behind the scenes, but I'm able to now have all these different Canadians interact with people that they may never have access to. Mm-hmm. And I think we need more of that. You understand what I'm saying? Like, this is not about me, again, patting myself on the back. This is about showing people how we can start to organically interact, but by way of using people like me, people like you as the portal.
For sure.
Because a lot of these people have never heard or would have never heard of certain people if we weren't in those rooms, being able to say, yo, Tunji, you know who's ill? This guy over here. Who is that? Yo, this guy's been killing it in Toronto. He's produced for yo, put him in a session over here. You know what I mean? That's how we have, a guy like John Fellner, relatively unknown singer, songwriter, producer, who is working with Elmine from the UK.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's me saying, yo, you know who'll be ill? This kid over here. They're like, who is that? Putting them in the room, they're like, yo, that was fire. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works. And I think that is really something that keeps me going. You know what I'm saying? Something that I love. The other day, having Massacre, be here and record in Canada and end up, doing stuff with Hagler, doing stuff with Wonder Girl.
Yeah.
Doing stuff with Boy Wonder. You understand
Sick.
what I'm saying? Like these are not like natural things per se. Shout out to Wonder. He produced one on Massacre's last album. But I mean, like, the energy that he had here just in that short span of time, like, you know what I mean? Like, he kicked out a gang of joints. Yeah. And the thing is, I'm like, yo, bro, we didn't even scratch the surface on the amount of producers that we have here, the amount of writers that we have here. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's extremely important, because a lot of times we've had this weird savior mentality in Canada. When somebody gets on, they're looking for everybody to get on through that guy.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, they're like, yo, this guy didn't put on whoever, or
I know.
that guy didn't put on whoever, but the reality is nobody put me on. You understand what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Even when it comes to Akon was like, the reason why me and Akon connected was that he's like, yo, I see this guy everywhere. I'm in London, I see this guy. I'm in Miami, I see this guy. I'm wherever, I'm seeing this Kardinal guy. You know what I'm saying? And shout out to his DJ Benny D, who's like, yo, Akon, that's the guy,
Mm-hmm.
But it's because I took myself out of the fucking city. You feel what I'm saying? And I went for it. You know what I'm saying? I planted my feet on foreign ground and I said, yo, this is who we are. We've been doing that since we were kids in high school. Shout out to Socrates, Shaw Claire. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo,
you guys were, and it's not like you guys had a gang of money. You were figuring it out.
Which money?
Exactly. You're figuring it out.
Which money?
In real time.
Let me tell you something, bro.
Going to London and shit,
before I got my first deal,
yeah,
there were times where I had to stay in my bedroom because I didn't have enough bus fare to go anywhere. You feel what I'm saying? Like, my parents, rest in peace to my pops and love to my mom, but these are blue collar people. I didn't come from no money, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Anybody that knew me from where I grew up, I born in Scarborough. I was in Flemo till I was like 13. Moved to Scarborough for another couple years. Then I was down at Vaughan Road, Oakland and Vaughan for a minute. And we don't need to get into the personal stuff, but it's like, yo, my family we were trying to renovate the crib that we were in. We didn't even have enough money to finish that joint. I lived in a half-finished house. Mad embarrassing. I remember one time Socrates, he was supposed to meet me. We were supposed to go to some party center or something. And he was supposed to get to my crib for 7 o'clock. He didn't ring the bell until 8:30. He's like, bro, I walked back and forth past your house because I didn't think that anybody lived there.
Oh, wow.
So to say all that, like, when we used to pool our money to go together, bro.
Right.
And we made it happen. We didn't have no bread. We didn't have no dough. But if Socrates had an opportunity, like, he got signed when he was mad young, like in grade, I think Sox might have been in like grade 11.
He was the first one, right? From your generation?
He was the first, well, from my crew anyway.
Your crew, okay.
I think he was signed to Warner Brothers LA. Shout out to Fuzzy, who put the play together. But he was signed to Warner Brothers Los Angeles in like 95. I feel like it was 95. Because my guy was still in high school. But the thing is, like, when Sox was making moves, he's like, yo, I'm about to go do a song with Premier in New York at D&D. He's like, yo, you coming? Hell yeah, I'm coming. You feel what I'm saying? Loose talk.
Pause.
Exactly. Shaw Claire, same thing. When he's making moves in LA or wherever, it's like I'm right there with him. I'm the hype man them times.
Right.
No ego in it, bro. You understand what I'm saying? Like, yo, who's it? Oh, this is my man Kardinal. I'm just the guy in the crew. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the support for these guys.
Yeah.
But the thing was, it's like we were going to these different cities, and of course they were treating us like the Canadians. You feel what I'm saying?
Not even knowing what
Listen,
is what in Canada.
Shout out to Sway and King Tech. I remember us going to the Wake Up Show, and there being a room of 20 MCs. And who do you think they're putting last?
Canadians.
The Canadians, because they're like, yeah, whatever. Put those guys last. But I remember it only took us one time to go there and tear that whole fucking place up.
Is that Volume 7?
No, I'm talking about the radio show, like live.
Yeah. But I remember hearing freestyle, like the
Probably.
the volume. Yeah,
Probably.
You Shocks and Socks, I think, were on Volume 7 or 6.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, that's how we had to earn respect. You know what I mean? Shout out to Friday Night Flavors in LA, but we went up there and tore it down. You know what I mean? Shout out to everybody in London, but we went to London and tore it down. You know what I'm saying? Like, we went across America in a van.
Yeah.
From station to station. You know what I'm saying? Just
by any means, essentially.
By any means. And that's, you know what I'm saying? And that's how
I think that's lost on a lot of people, to be honest with you. I think sometimes people think that, like, oh, if I just had this thing, I'd be popping. If I had money, not to say money doesn't help, but it's not the only answer to this. It's like actually one component of it. But the mental side of it,
you know what?
Of getting it done,
we live
so important.
Bro, we live in a time where people would rather than get the results, people would love for everybody to think that they have the results or to look like they have the results instead of getting the actual results.
Yeah.
We live
or point the finger as to why they don't have the results to other folks.
Except
themselves.
That too. Like, if we look at back in when we were kids, vinyl was the only means to getting shit out there. There wasn't any internet. There wasn't no.
Yeah.
It was vinyl. Like, yo, shout out to Mr. Morgan. When Jay-Z talks about 560 State Street, that's where Morgan and Saul Guy lived, at 560 State Street. You know what I mean? Tata and Jay were like upstairs. So we used to be at 560 State Street, and also Lord Jamal from Brand Nubian also lived in that same spot. Legendary spot.
Crazy.
In Brooklyn. And we used to literally have to put all the pieces of vinyl in the paper and then into the sleeve, put it in the box. Vinyl into the paper, we used to have to do that. Like, if we're sending 1,000 to Japan, we're having to put 1,000 pieces of vinyl into the sleeve. We're doing it by hand.
Right.
And then lifting up all them mother effing boxes, taking it down the stairs, taking it to FedEx or whatever the hell. Like, we did all that joint manually. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Sometimes we didn't have enough money for me to have my own single, like my own piece of vinyl. So it used to be like a Kardinal song on side A, and on the other side might have been Solitaire.
Okay.
Or it might have been Solitaire on side A and Marvel on the B side, because we didn't have enough bread to even have our own
you get the
piece of vinyl.
Wholesale.
That's right.
Wow.
So it's like, we really mad days that I just went hungry because I took my lunch money to go to studio and record. I didn't have the setup at the crib.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? So that's how we ended up recording at DJ Power's crib. Shout out to Henry Lee Fredericks. We used to, you know what I mean, go down to Jane Street and over to his projects, and we used to record, like, literally set up the mic in his closet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that the clothes was the damper for all the room noise.
How do you guys know this at this time? There's no internet. How you just figuring it out?
You know what? Mentorship is something that is really lacking. in this day and age. Not all the time, but it's not like it was before, because that's the reality, is that the only way you're going to know is if somebody told you. You feel what I'm saying? This wasn't something that you were going to see in the Source or the rap pages or whatever magazine. It wasn't something that somebody on the block was just going to know randomly. You feel what I'm saying? It was people that was like, each one teach one was a big thing. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, especially people that were in the music industry at that time, it's like, yo, we knew the spots. We knew that, you know, Scam, you could go to Scam's crib for $25 an hour and you could record at Scam's. Or, you know, that DJ X had a setup and he might be able to charge you something, or DJ Power, or whoever it is. And we really just went anywhere that we could until we found what we called our home base, which was, you know what I'm saying, Day's spot that ended up being the home of Knee Deep Records. And Knee Deep was Shaw Claire and Day's record label. You know what I'm saying? So we used to go there and the whole Circle crew used to record.
Oh, hi, Mark. As you know, a conversation like this doesn't come cheap. I'm only going to ask you for one thing and one thing only. Hit the subscribe button below. Thank you.
You know, when Glenn did Back for More, like when I went down to Philly, you know, at the height of like Mark and Sherman Byers, you know what I mean? Like when they were managing everybody, you know what I'm saying? Beanie Siegel, Eve, Dre and Vidal, like, you know what I'm saying? Like that Philly, you know, that whole Philly thing, like they had such a stronghold on that. And I remember going to record Back for More, and I think Pooh Bear might have written Back for More. Like it was just a crazy time. And you know what I'm saying, Glenn Lewis shooting the video and like Vince Carter showing up for the video. Like these are like incredible global moments that if you weren't paying attention or you didn't have access, like you'd have no idea on the impact that different Canadian artists had at different times. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, us doing 106 in Park, Glen on Soul Train.
I remember that. That was a big deal.
Bro,
massive deal for us.
All of it was a big deal. But, you know, it's interesting, artists that will remain nameless, but it's funny because I tell people all the time, just because you weren't there doesn't mean it didn't happen. You feel what I'm saying? People that were not outside when we were outside. People that were little kids. Right. You feel what I'm saying? Like they grow up, and because you are not hip to it, it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. There's a reason. And again, this is not like, you have to understand that I say this with the most amount of humility, gratitude, and blessings. Like if I see Jay's gonna daps me up. Of course. Because
I seen it yesterday.
No, but what I'm saying is it's like, no, it's just like the work that we put in. Listen, I'll tell you something I've never told anybody. Like Jay has definitely punked me before, and we were friends, you know what I'm saying? But it's definitely been things to where it's like, I remember there was this music that I had, and I'm like, Jay, you're gonna love this shit. And I'm like, yo, I'm gonna leave this for you, and if you fuck with it, you fuck with it. If not, I'll never talk to you about it again. And I remember there was a time where he's like, all right, cool. Never brought up the fucking music again. And I remember it's like, I'm like, ugh. Like as a fan, as you know what I mean? And you're just like, oh man, Jay didn't fuck with whatever it was. But the thing is, it's like, it was.
How do you process that at the time?
Delicately.
It's a good answer.
Delicately. But I mean, like, I say all that to say, like, you don't get to have these experiences without like understanding that it's not, these things don't happen out of nowhere. They don't just happen just because or fluke and all that. I don't believe in none of that. You know, I believe that these things happen because, being in Jamaica and performing on this TV show, and I remember Bounty called me and he said, yo, I got to send down my artist there, one of my little youth them that I'm bringing up, want you to meet him and just chill with him. I said, all right. So I remember somebody saying, yo, killer artist around the corner, I want to meet you or whatever. And this is still on set, but like we literally went to some like back little dark alley, and there's some youth with a do-rag and a hat pulled down mad low. And it was Vibes Cartel. You know what I'm saying? And I remember going to studio with him, I think either that night or the second night. And if you go, like, this is like documented actual stuff. Like, I'm on Vibes Cartel's first album, not with a random song. The song is called Cartel and Kardinal.
Yeah.
Like, that's the name of the song. You feel what I'm saying? Like, you know, all these different magical things that have happened in my career. Like, you could say, like,
I'm gonna be honest, and I just 100 with how I feel about your legacy, which is unfortunate because it is like a Toronto thing. I feel you're very underappreciated in this city. Real talk. I feel like you don't get the flowers that you rightfully deserve, and I think that people, to your point, it's because they weren't there, they were too young, just don't know what impact that you've had for so many artists and for this music that we've created, and now it's to a global stage. You bust the door open in America for others to be able to like just absolutely flourish. And there's other people that open the door as well too. Shout out to Mishimi, shout out to Maestro, you know, but I think there's this thing where, I don't know, I feel like, and honestly, because I think you're incredible, I think you're an amazing artist, but I just think that for some reason it's the value. Sometimes people don't give you the credit that you rightfully deserve.
I think, to be honest, shout out to my boy Teron Thomas from Rock City, you know, Grammy Award for Songwriter of the Year last year. If there's one thing that I learned from Teron often, he's not going to wait for people to give him his flowers.
Yeah.
He's going to go out there and demand it every single time. And Teron is very vocal at all times. And he's like, and him obviously, you know, being partners with Ray Daniels, obviously the two of them, you're gonna get that. But what I love,
it's not one, it's the other.
That's right. But what I love about both of them actually is that love them or hate them, they're not gonna wait for their flowers. They're gonna tell you as to why they should get their flowers.
Yeah.
I was raised a different kind of way. And this is not taken away from how they're raised, you know what I mean? Because I've literally met Teron's parents' family, like that's all family, like. But the way that I was raised was a little bit different. And maybe that's a little bit of the other part of the Toronto thing that I have. Is that like, we're not really beat your chest, super bossy type of people.
It's conservative here.
Yeah. I don't even want to say conservative because it's like, I'm a live youth. I'm an energetic youth. I'm not conservative, but at the same time, I'm also not necessarily one of those people that's gonna like be out there talking about why people should give me their flowers, this, that, and the next thing, and yada, yada, yada. I'll tell you, honestly, the past couple years have been incredible because it's a lot of, it's been like formally it's been crazy between, you know, the Walk of Fame, between receiving a doctorate, you know, between receiving the Akon Award.
That's what I was going
from
with
Legacy Awards and so many other things in between. There definitely has been a renaissance of like both young and old of people that like we've gotten to a place to where, and maybe the pandemic helped, but there was a time to where something happened. Something happened to where there was a shift before to where they're like, give a fuck about this, you know what I mean? Like, yo, this guy's washed, bro. To where it's like, when I'm outside in the streets, because I move around by myself 98% of the time, I receive my flowers in private.
I see it.
You know what I'm saying? Like yesterday, we just walked down the street.
Yesterday. She was shaking.
Hey, listen.
I'll tell her. I saw her shake. I saw her run. This lady ran across the street, out of breath.
Yeah,
was in awe. Said you were one of her favorite artists. Shaking to take a picture, and then was so appreciative. You could feel her crying. You know. Mm-hmm. I photobombed her shot, but you know, I had to do it. Had to do it.
But like, yo, bro, at the end of the day, like,
But I seen it. And this is, I think this is where I'm coming from this, because in LA, I saw how much those flowers you got and how much love you got. And I was like, that made me think about what I was just saying about how in Toronto, prior it's been perceived differently, it felt like to me. And I never fucked with that. I thought that was always kind of whack, to be honest with you. But to your point, in the last few years, at least from a public standpoint, you've been getting those flowers very consistently.
Yeah, which is cool. I don't think, listen, for me, whether or not I get the flowers, it's all about the legacy.
No, but it's well deserved as well. And speaking of
respect due,
well deserved.
But it's like, yo, at the end of the day, if you look at, I'm proud of, like, if you look at Kanon, I'm glad that I was able to do music with Kanon for Waving Flags. I'm glad that I was able to do music with Chaos. I'm glad that I was able to, be on Drake's mixtape in 2006. I'm glad that I was able to rock with Point Blank, with Ghetto Concept. I'm glad that I was able to rock with The Kid Famous. I'm glad that I was able to rock with
that Too Much remix.
You know what I'm saying? Hard. Like, there's just like with King Rain, rest in peace. With
and while you're doing that,
with Concrete Mob, with
while you're doing that, you're doing stuff with Pharrell. You're on the Grindin remix. You're having your own records as well over here that are really popping off. I'm
glad I got to work with Pharrell, with Pharoah Monch, with Busta Rhymes, with Bounty Killer, with Spraga Benz, with Vibes Cartel, with Stephen Marley, with Lady Gaga, with Rihanna,
Akon,
with Timberland, with Busta Rhymes. All these people, like, Virgin, like, when people say, yo, like, who's your bucket list of, like, people you want to do stuff with, I'm like,
done it.
I was like, a lot, but it's a blessing though, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a serious blessing. And the thing is, it's like, I love the fact that now, just based on all the platforms that we have and the access that we have, we do live in a time where now you have a little bit more access to really understand some of the impact that people had before everything was documented in such an efficient way that it is right now. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, me and the man them talk about it all the time. Like, my G, if I'm being completely honest, like, we were living life. We were out there living life. Like, when we have shows in the south of France, and we know tonight we're gonna be at the biggest club in the south of France, where people fly in from around the world and have $100 million yachts and this, that, and blah, blah, blah. But like, we're at our hotel and we're on a vineyard in the south of France playing bocce ball as the sun is setting, drinking wine.
How old are you?
Them time in my 30s.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, if you're in 20s, you should no business knowing what bocce ball is in your 20s.
But that's the thing is, it's like
30s, okay, I get it.
In South, Virgin, in south of France, like, and it's like, I wouldn't even know how to integrate social media into that. Like, just thinking back at, like, those experiences,
yeah,
like that type of stuff is magical. You understand what I'm saying? Going to China, or going to Romania, or the first time that we performed in Malaga, Spain, the south of Spain, in front of 300,000 people. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, all those experiences that we had, we were in the moment, living it.
Yeah.
So it's like, right now, I don't, I see, like, I see my peers, I see my people, like, people got angry at Busta the other day because he got pissed at one of his shows. Because he's like, yo, put your fucking phones down.
I thought that was
like,
dope, to be
honest. I thought it was dope too, but the thing is, it's like, we live in a weird time. You can't say anything.
It's funny, I've been thinking about that, because every time people with their phones, and I'm like, I can't wait till an artist says, like, yo, just put the phones away. Let's have a good time.
I mean, listen, Dave Chapelle literally invested in a company to where anytime you go into his things, you got to lock your phone.
Yeah.
You got to be in the moment.
Yeah.
And it sounds so weird to say, but it's like, people don't live in the moment.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think really one of the reasons why pandemic was a wild and crazy, terrible time, but at the same time, it forced people to have to be near people. Even though we were distant from like public when it comes to your family or whoever you're spending time with. It's like outside of those crazy places like Florida and Atlanta, like most of the world, we're like, yo, we have to stand still and we have to take the time to be with the people that we love. And at that time, especially because you didn't know about whatever was going on, you had to choose the people that you were going to be around.
Yeah.
And it's like, that was an interesting time because I think in society, it really allowed us to really think about and remember some of the important things. The reason why D-Nice got so big during the pandemic was because what he did was he reminded us of the part of music that we all connected to. The reason why there was that monumental moment where he had 1 million people following him live on Instagram was because we were all connected through that energy. And the thing is, it's like we hadn't had that. And he reminded us of what those monocultural moments were, meaning where we are all in our crib, in our kitchens, in our living rooms, family rooms, whatever, but we're all dancing to something at the same time. We're all feeling that feeling at the same time. And I think really what's interesting about a lot of artists right now, the ones that last anyway, are the people that we connect. We don't care about who their relationships are. We don't care about what they drive, what they're wearing, who their friends are. It's the people that can still allow us to feel something, whether it is something inspirational to get us out of dark places, whether it's people that allow us to celebrate, whether it's people that allow us to be introspective. Those people that are able to make us feel something in this day and age are the ones that win. And the people that nurture that and help facilitate those artists are the ones that win.
Yeah.
And I think that with everything we're doing, even if you think about Jessie Reyez, for a lot of years, of course, like she was a local legend, global star now. But at the time, she was a Toronto legend. Everybody knew about Jessie. And everybody knew that she had the talent, but it's like there was that glass ceiling that she wasn't able to break through. And I remember when I heard Figures, I remember I was overseas, and I remember I hit her in the DMs, and I was like, this is it. I'm here wherever I was. I think I was probably in India or something. And I was like, it's 4:00 in the morning, and I'm listening to this shit on repeat. You found it. And I remember that was the beginning of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because whatever that song, whatever it was that she emoted in that song, it connected. So remember earlier we were talking about, you're asking like, what is the thing? I don't know what the thing is. But when that thing happens, you can identify it. You can feel it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what it is sometimes with this industry, it's like, you think about these corporations and they're publicly traded and stocks going up and this, that, and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of it, at the beginning and at the end, the only thing that moves the needle, the only thing that is going to make those stocks go up, the only thing that is going to have people see success for a long, sustainable amount of time is those people that still move with the feeling. Those are the people, bro.
Yeah.
Those are the people.
That's a fact.
Those are the people. Those are the things.
I can't have you here and not ask you about music that you made that moved millions of people. I'm going to rapid fire some of these, but I'm going to start just a couple of songs. Northern Touch.
That song was the first time in a group sense, in a group setting, that there was like a crew track of, what was there, 5 of us on there? It was a pivotal moment for Canada because it was really one of the first times that people celebrated that song as much or more than a song from anywhere else in the world.
Yes.
That was one of the first times that we had mega Canadian pride from East to West Coast. You know what I mean? Because we had dudes from the West Coast, we had dudes from the East, but whatever that magic was that was balled up into that song, Northern Touch was crazy because I saw firsthand when we toured how the kids were going absolutely ape shit.
Yeah.
like sold out across the country. Kids were losing their minds because for the first time, they had something to hold on to, something that they could be proud of, something that was super dope that represented them. And it's funny because you're Colombian. I'll throw you this joke. I remember one of the first times I went to LA. And, you know, you hear all the stereotypes, the gangbang and the this and that. This is when you're younger.
Yeah.
And I remember I was in the Beverly Center. A man came up to me and said, "Yo, Holmes."
That wasn't a Colombian, bro.
I know he's not Colombian.
Mexican for sure. But
Latino.
Sure. You see us all as Mexicans.
No, I don't.
It's cool.
I don't. Maybe. But yo, the man said, "Yo, Holmes." And I was like, "Fuck, not my first trip." I was like, "Yo, what's up?"
Oh, you thought, okay, yeah.
He's like, "Yo, you're the guy from that video. Yo, with the afro." I was like, "Oh, you seen that shit?" He's like, "Yo, I fucks with that, yo." I was like, "Yo, this is crazy." So it had like a super national impact.
Yeah.
But remember, that song got on BET. You know what I'm saying? So they started seeing it on Rap City and whatever else. And that was, again, for us, one of the first songs that we had that, like, you know, in a big way was able to, like, really make an impact.
I said rapid fire, but you made me think of something because, and this is where this comes from. I'm going back to it because I don't know if I'm going to put this in here, but whatever. The reason why I was saying that I think it was underappreciated because remember a few years ago, we did Jessie's show at the Junos. She was nominated for 5 awards.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in Sweden, Byron, Jessie, and myself. We were like, yo, we want to do something dope.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happened that I remembered that it was the 20th anniversary of Northern Touch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yo, it would be dope if we can get everybody on the same stage to perform the record in Vancouver for, you know, at Jessie's show in the Junos.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking to myself, oh, this must be already happening with the Junos. You know where I'm going?
Yeah.
And I come to call someone, and he'll remain nameless, but he was really hurt that you guys didn't get the call to go to the Junos and perform the record. Mm-hmm. He was really upset, and I understood. I was just like, yo, I can't believe we're not celebrating this record. It's monumental. Mm-hmm. So I told Jessie and Byron, I said, yo, this is what's happening. Unfortunately, Karis isn't going to do anything with them. Everybody that was on the record for Northern Touch, I'm like, you know what? Let's figure it out and let's us, or I shouldn't say us, Jessie, would you take care of the bill to fly whoever we need to fly over to Vancouver to make this shit happen?
Yep.
And Jessie said, say less.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got everybody from that record. Mm-hmm. And it was, I remember...
at the Commodore.
At the Commodore, yeah. And that was special for me as well, too, because just what I learned was you guys haven't performed that record in almost 19 or 20 years together, all on one stage.
Time,
yeah. And it was incredible to see you guys perform. Now, afterwards, then Karis heard that we had everybody coming in, and then all of a sudden they brought you on to the show.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, good. But I remember that being everybody in the venue lost their fucking minds. Mm-hmm. And it was dope to watch everybody celebrate you guys on the stage when Jessie brought y'all out. Mm-hmm. But you know what was even a doper moment? The prayer you guys had in the backstage. I remember seeing it, and it was like 20 of you, because a lot of people came to that show. Mm-hmm. And it was just all y'all from that generation having that prayer. I saw it, and I walked away because I didn't want to interrupt in the moment.
We would have included you. What do you mean?
No, I appreciate that. But it just felt so like of you guys from that time. And it was a beautiful thing to see. So yeah, no, I just always remember that Northern Touch because it had a huge impact on everybody. So it was amazing to see you guys celebrate that on stage.
Nah, that was fire of you guys to bring us out.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Shout out to Jessie and Byron for,
no doubt,
you know, everybody making that happen and everybody coming on and performing that record. Mm-hmm. And then you guys, Rascals did Top of the World, and I'm not even gonna lie. I tried to get Branson Levy out there for that show.
Oh shit.
I tried.
Oh shit.
Yeah, but then somebody came back with a crazy number. I was like,
Sounds about
it's
right.
okay.
You know.
It's all right. So we didn't make that happen.
Or
Okay, I'm gonna try and get through this here rapid fire. Hustlin'.
that's exactly what it was. It was Hustlin'. The funny thing was the Hustlin' EP. It went #1 across America on all the college charts. And at that time, those were like indicative. Those were the numbers. That was the data that you followed to see how records were doing, was the college charts.
Yeah.
And I remember that went #1 across all of America, and that's what led. Shout out to Naeem. Naeem.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he's the one that signed me based on that back in the day. So
Okay.
Hustlin' was really like my breakthrough moment that allowed for, the US labels to come knocking.
BaKardi Slang.
BaKardi Slang, I'm putting it out there, that's the original They Not Like Us.
Okay.
We don't say you know what I'm saying. T-Dot says you done know.
Done. No. Yeah.
We don't say, hey, that's the breaks. We say, yo, so it go. Like, you know what I mean? That was the original, like, we're showing you what we do over here.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? And it wasn't a diss, but we were just showing you, like, nah, like, we have our own way of saying shit
culture.
in the city.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? And shout out to man like Central C, who, you know what I mean, did like a UK version a couple years ago that really went super viral. But you know what I'm saying? That was that energy from them times. Cause it was like, I grew up hearing, shout out to MC Light, love her, one of my favorite MCs of all time. I remember she had a song called, Kick This One for Brooklyn. Boogie Down Productions and KRS had a South Bronx. MC Shan had The Bridge. The West Coast had songs, straight out of Compton. But what was our Toronto joint? You know what I'm saying? So for me, I was like, yo,
Big L,
that's what BaKardi Slang was, and the ending part of that hook was, and everybody knows it's the T-Dot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I wanted, no matter where that played, for people to know, what is this?
You coined the term.
I didn't coin the term, but I helped make it famous.
Relevant. Yeah. Okay.
I helped make it famous for sure. But that was K-Force.
Okay.
K-Force was the one. K-Force was in the movie Juice, for you guys that don't know. Legendary Toronto underground artist. And he was the one. Me and Chapelle were standing outside of the studio at Gadget Studio. Again, legendary person, legendary time.
Yeah.
But we were outside of the studio, and at the end of K-Force's song, he said T-Dot, O dot. We were like, what the fuck? Like, simple, but we had never heard it before.
Sick.
And I remember Chapelle, he was the first one to integrate it into one of his joints.
Okay.
And then I put it in BaKardi Slang, and the rest is history.
Dope.
Yep.
All-time Killin'?
Written in a basement in Scarborough with the mans them. With IRS, YOK. You know what I'm saying? Literally, we are sitting on couches in a basement, just going bar for bar. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was in that friendly, competitive nature. Because it was one of those things like...
That makes a lot of sense because it sounds so collaborative, that record.
Bro, listen, people talk about, like, imagine your artist gets their first big record deal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what are they doing? They're drawing for the man's den from the block.
Yeah.
That nobody knows.
Yeah.
And I say to the label, I know you don't know who these guys are. I don't even know if my city knows who these guys are. But I'm putting them on the major stage.
Back to what you do.
And what was crazy, shout out to Julie Black. I actually wrote the hook for Old Time Killin', but Julie Black sang it. And shout out to Alistair, Alistair's not in the video.
This is a crazy one.
He's actually the male voice singing with Julie Black
in the chorus.
In the chorus. He just didn't want to be in the video at the time.
Shout out Alistair Waite.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the wild thing about Old Time Killin', that's how I formed a relationship at the time with Pharrell, with 50, with Jeanne, with Busta Rhymes. That song opened mad doors for me in America. Old Time Killin' was the one that everybody was like, who is that?
Yeah.
That was the one.
I remember going on
Pitbull, J. Cole said during when he was in college, like he was like, yo, that was
Yeah.
his joint. Like
I was in high school. I was going on a camping trip with my boys, and I was on repeat, going up to Killbear, just repeat the whole.
you know what I tried to do with All Time Killin? And I recently said it in an interview on the red carpet. The energy in this city was so electric. I wanted to try and figure out how to capture that in a song, so that anytime you heard it, you're just like, yo, what is that? That I tried to capture Toronto and put it into this thing. That's what All Time Killin was.
Yeah, you definitely
I wanted
did it.
for people to, yo, if you see me, I'm in there, I'm just in like a wife beater and jeans and a furry Kangol, and you know what I mean? With the vibes, because all of the mans them were there, and we are just like, yo, like we have to give them our energy. We have to give them our thing. You know what I'm saying? So that's what All Time Killin was, and I think that's why it resonated with so many people, because it was an infectious energy. But that wasn't me. That was Toronto flowing through me and the man them. You know what I'm saying? And
X did the
it
video
went
too,
out
right?
there. X did.
Yeah.
X did. I'll give you a quick 60-second or less story about that. At the time, we had 75,000 USD to make that video. The most I think I've ever spent on a video up to that point. Well, that's not true. I think BaKardi Slang was like, I don't know. I'm making it up. Kevin Dufresne can confirm. Maybe 30 grand US, 40, 75. The night before the video, we still don't have a treatment.
Oh shit.
X was popping so much at that time. He's like, don't worry about it.
For those who don't know, a treatment is basically the script of the
storyline.
the storyline of the video.
X is like, don't worry. Yo, the night before, he gives us a paragraph.
What?
It's colors.
Yeah.
It's culture. It's energy.
Uh,
And me and Mr. Morgan, we're like, what the fuck? And we show up the next day, and it was, so I told you we need 4 days for this. It was the beginning.
I'll pay that for a little extra if you don't mind.
It was the beginning of what became a staple in music videos for a while.
Hell yeah.
Old Time Killin was the first of its kind.
Yeah.
After that came Sean Paul with a similar aesthetic.
Yes.
Came Usher.
Yes.
Did all these different people. Old Time Killin was the visual prototype of that. It was the first time that X had ever done those kind of visual aesthetics in a video.
Yeah.
And after that,
for years, that was
is you know what I'm saying?
became mainstream.
Things were patterned after that.
Yeah.
But Old Time Killin, yo, listen, shouts out. We used to call him Little Vex at the time, me and the man them quietly. But shouts out to Little X because he had the vision. He didn't blink.
Yeah.
He was like, yo, trust me.
That's dope.
I just want to man them, just do the man them things in front of these beautiful pieces of art. If you saw, it wasn't just the colors, but it was
these like the incredible set pieces, right? So that played as much of those set pieces are as much of a character in the music video as you guys were. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the colors and everything. Yeah, I saw X yesterday. We were talking about doing this. We're gonna do it.
Good.
In a couple of weeks.
Old Time Killin was us.
Yeah,
like it was us. Meaning it was the city.
So that's amazing. Speaking of one person you just mentioned who heard that record and then had you jump on a record, Grindin remix with the Clips and Pharrell. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that.
Can't remember the name of the club. It wasn't a club that I went to often, but it was a club downtown, and I just got back in town, and somebody invited me to some party or whatever, and I went up. They took me to like a little VIP entrance. Mm-hmm. So I went up the stairs, and literally I was going to open the door, and the door busts open, and it's literally Pharrell. And I'm like, listen, the Pharrell that we know today, I'm talking at the height of being Pharrell, the biggest thing on the planet. And I'm like, yo, what's up? I'm like, yo, he's like, yo, I know who you is, my brother. I was like, yo, what are you doing here? He's like, yo, I'm in town promoting the NERD album. I was like, random but fire. Okay, cool. And I was just like, yo, man, like, He was like, yo, I love that record that you dropped. I said, oh, Old Time Killin. Excuse me. He's like, yeah, I love that, bro. I was like, yo, that's, mine is just blowing. Like, I'm
You
like,
weren't
that's
expecting
crazy. I was like, yo, that record that you did for the clips, I was like, that shit is next level. Like, he's like, yo, I want you to jump on the remix. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, some industry talk.
Shit.
Yeah.
We should do something.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. He's like, yo, give me your info. I was like, all right, cool, whatever. 2 days later, there's a FedEx at Chocolate Studio. FedEx at a chocolate factory. Man like Gordo comes in. And Gordo's like, yo, there's a FedEx from Star Trek. I'm like, what? Yo, bro, open up the package, fam, and it's the Pro Tools disc.
Crazy, yeah.
The Pro Tools disc.
Yeah. Because that's a time when shit was getting leaked like crazy.
No.
And I know email.
No internet, bro.
Yeah.
No, he had to FedEx the thing.
Yeah.
So it's the Grindin Pro Tools session. 15 minutes.
That took you 15 minutes?
15 minutes. Because it flowed out one time.
Yeah.
That was like, you have to understand, this is a time at nobody in Toronto rap had them kind of looks ever.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, it's like somebody giving you that golden key. Like, they're like, bro. I was like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
Well, if it is Mr. Canadian, Mr. Canuck T. Dot niggas grinding, we don't give a fuck. I was like, what could you say to the world at a time to be like, if you had a Uzi, just brrrr,
I'm telling you, bro, that
you know what I mean?
Verse sounded like the rent was due for like 3 months,
it
bro.
Was.
That shit was
like
dope.
it was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yo, I remember going into the booth. Gordo recorded it. Not the Afrobeat house Gordo.
I know, yeah,
Gordo.
yeah, Gordo.
Well, you know.
Well, sorry,
but
right.
The rest of them don't know. Gordo from Toronto.
Yeah.
And literally we did, called FedEx immediately. And they came back, picked it up, sent it back. Next thing I know, Pharrell was like, yo, you and Sean Paul are on the Selector remix. So there was the Selector remix,
right.
and then there was the other remix with Wayne and Nori.
Right. Yeah.
And you know, Nori, Wayne, you know that I love you guys. But our remix was way sicker.
Way sicker.
Trust me, but
no, that
time
song rang off. I remember going to Palazzo. That was the record that
Palazzo.
Like back in the day. But this is like Woodbridge Shorties, and so that was the record that would get me hyped up to go and talk to all the shorties.
Listen,
like I had to listen to that to get me going.
I ended up at a Mix Show Power Summit, which was a music conference of all the top DJs from across America and the world.
Yeah.
And I ended up on stage with Pharrell, Timberland, The Clips, and Supercat performing that record. It's on YouTube somewhere. But like,
we'll pull it up for this.
Magical times, bro.
Yeah.
When I say magical, I mean literally like magical times.
Yeah. That's
magical.
That's incredible, man. It's dope to see you guys reconnect yesterday as well too.
Yeah.
I
haven't seen Pharrell in person in years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And you be able to tell him how big the Grindin remix was in Canada at the time too.
Everywhere, really. But especially
here.
Especially here.
Toronto, yeah.
Yeah, especially here because that went ape shit in the Caribbean, in the UK, in the States, because you have to understand it's like, not only was it just ill, but it's like, yo, we have Jamaican people and Caribbean people every corner of the world.
Yep.
So them times to hear themselves represented on these massive records also really meant something to the culture at those times. Because it's not like it was something that you just heard all the time. You know what I mean? So anytime that people heard themselves come through those speakers.
For sure.
Next level shit.
Last but not least, Dangerous.
Them times rent really was due. I was on It was a time. Do you remember when Akon went to? No, it wasn't with the girl. It might have been around the same time. I think it was when Akon threw the kid off the stage.
I don't remember that.
What?
Maybe,
Oh, you're gonna have fun after this episode when you go back.
Pull it up.
Akon
Sounds from maybe.
I think what it was that somebody threw some shit.
Oh, where he like
Yes.
picked him up and he
Yes.
gorilla pressed him into the crowd. Or
Into the
something.
crowd.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
yeah,
yes, of course. So I was with him on the road them times. We were on tour with Gwen Stefani. So we were on like a North American tour.
Okay.
And we were on Timberland's tour bus. Timberland's tour bus had a recording studio at the back. So most tour buses have like, you know, the king size bed, like that's the master suite. Yeah. He had converted it into a studio. So Akon rented out Timberland's tour bus while we were on this North American tour. And them times was in between. Like I had gotten off of Geffen, did all these different things, but like money's running out. Like it's dipping down. It's dipping down. And I'm on the tour, you know what I mean? I'm on the tour with these guys and we're recording all kinds of joints. And I remember there was a time like I was sleeping on the bus and I know who the guy is, remain nameless, but the man like, I remember calling my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, but there was a youth and I was on one side of the bus and he was on the other side. This man was snoring and it was just, I remember I called my girl damn near in tears, like, what am I doing with my life? You know where I am right now? There's a big dirty youth snoring right there. So I don't even have a hotel room. I'm sleeping on the couch in the tour bus. I don't have no bread. Like, I didn't know what the next move was at that time.
Right.
And the very last stop of the tour, the very last stop, we were in Vancouver. And it's ironic because the beat was made by Chemo from Vancouver and Hazel. But the very last stop, I remember saying to Exit, shout out to Exit, he works at Mass Appeal now, but he was Akon's personal engineer. And I said, yo, Exit, play this beat for Akon. I gotta go take a shower because I didn't have my own hotel room. So somebody had to lend me their shower. Yeah. So I could go bathe and then come back to the, you know? So I said, yo, I know Akon's supposed to reach on the tour bus. Play this beat for Con when I go bathe. He's like, all right, cool, no problem. So I went upstairs, you know, showered, whatever, put on my clothes, came back downstairs. And Akon, you know, he's in one of them swiveling office chairs kind of thing. And I remember he swiveled around. And I said, yo, Con, what's good? I said, yo, did Exit play the joint? He goes, what joint? I said, yo, Exit, press play on the joint. So Con is there. He's there looking at the board. And you hear the beat. And I'm looking at Con like, huh? And Con's like, You know what I'm saying? But then all of a sudden I just heard, girl, I can't know this. By the time I went up to shower and come back downstairs, he had written and recorded the hook.
Fire.
Again, 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just like, that's her, the big dog trying to
ones.
get a little kitty to purr, X-Man. Like, it just
flowed
out. Yeah. And the interesting thing was we did the joint, dapped up, cool. He went to go do the last show. I went home, still didn't have a plan. And shout out to Mayday. It's ironic, we're recording this on Mayday's birthday. Mayday came to the crib, to the studio, because I had a studio in the house. He's like, yo, play me what you did on the tour. And I remember when Dangerous came on, he was like, just his face just stopped. He's like, yo, save this. I was like, no, it is saved. He's like, back it up and then back it up again. It's like, what are you talking about? He's like, bro, you don't hear this?
Uh-huh.
I didn't hear it, bro.
Oh, really? Okay.
I was like, yeah, cool song. I didn't understand. And it wasn't until, I don't think it was until I went and sat with Jimmy Iovine that I really understood.
Song comes out and then you sit with Jimmy?
No.
Oh, you just sit with Jimmy and he...
This is the thing. This was just a demo. And we went everywhere. We went to Atlantic. We went to Interscope. We went to all the places. And everybody's like, yeah, cool story. Dangerous. What do you want? How much do you want?
Right.
What, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I did not understand. I was like, yeah, cool song. I still was like, there was a joint that I had with T-Pain called I Want to Go Home With You. I was like, oh, this is the one.
Right.
This is going to be the one. They're like, nah, bro. Dangerous is the one. And, bro, Dangerous, besides the fact that, like, my heroes started calling me, congratulating me, like, yo, bro,
Amazing.
Some of us never got that in our whole career.
Amazing.
It's like, what are you talking about? You guys have mad out there, like, bro, that, people don't have that.
Yeah.
I remember at the time, even like, at the time, again, this is not a flex, this is just real life at the time. Because of the Rihanna timing and whatever,
Yeah.
Me and Jay would casually text from time to time. At that time, changed his number a long time. I don't know how to find it. But at that time, I remember even him congratulating me. And I was just like, I didn't understand them times. But it's like, not every artist is able to get one of those in their career.
Not at all.
You see what's happening right now with Shabuzi?
Yes.
Like, it's like that.
Yeah.
For people that are
example.
like, for people that don't understand, it's like that.
That's very true.
You know what I'm
Good
saying?
comparison.
And it's like being in Europe and going to check in for a flight and hearing your song play over the speakers while you're checking in for a flight and people dancing. And I'm like, yo, you know, that's me. That is you. This is you understand what I'm saying? Like, yo, I alluded to it earlier. It was, and we can end on this. It's funny that it's the manager's playbook and we didn't talk about managers.
I'm going to. I got it.
Okay.
Yes.
But at the time, Interscope, Don Robinson said, yo, I have a show in the south of Spain. It's you, the Pussycat Dolls, and whoever the hell their Spain's big artist is. Yeah. Like they're a massive guy. The three of you guys are going to do this special for MTV, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, sick. Two things. Every year, hundreds of thousands of people show up for these concerts. Mm-hmm. Bro, 300,000 people plus attended that show. The biggest show I've ever done in my life.
Crazy.
It's literally a city. I don't know how to explain to you what 300,000 people even sound like or even look like in the same place. Mm-hmm. Here's the kicker. In Spain, they do the shit backwards. The headliner goes on first. The opener goes on last.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Mans them wanted me to go on last, bro. After the main guy, the whole crowd is singing along.
Yeah.
Pussycat Dolls.
Yeah.
And then the random youth from Toronto. And I remember before we went on, I was backstage and I heard the crowd cheer. And I said, what is that? Foreign sound to hear 300,000 people. It's more than a roar. It's psycho.
Right.
And not only that, we had to do a full show, bro. It wasn't go do your one song.
Yeah.
We had to go rock for a half hour.
Yeah.
In a place where English is not their first language. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You press Dangerous, and they're singing the whole shit word for word.
Word for word.
300,000.
What does that feel like?
I don't know. To this day, I don't know.
It's probably like a blur, huh?
It's not, it's very vivid, but it's not something.
Can't explain it.
Nope. And I understand now when I used to get those calls multiple times a day from people, that whole congratulations thing, I was like, what are you guys congratulating me for? But it's like when you go to China and somebody says, my 80-year-old grandmother, this is their favorite song. And somebody else says, yo, my 4-year-old kid, this is their favorite song. Or in this era, last year, when it went viral again, and kids think it's a brand new song that came out in 2023, and Dangerous is their favorite song, and they're 12 years old still, I don't know how to explain
That's
to you
impact.
what that's about.
Yeah, that's impact. That's just the mark of a great song.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is the manager's playbook,
Mm-hmm.
and I know we're running short for time here.
All good.
But I do want to ask you, you've been managed by a few individuals throughout your 30-year career.
Here's an interesting thing. 30 years is marked by the first time that I was ever on something for sale. So 1994 is when, big up to Eugene from Play the Record. He had a record label called Steppin' Bigger. And that's when Socrates was signed to Steppin' Bigger. And he came out with his first 12-inch was called Still Caught Up. And I sang the hook of Still Caught Up in 1994.
Wow.
So that's where I mark it from. But I had performed since I was a kid. I performed for Nelson Mandela like 19 when he was released from prison, and he came to Canada. I might have been one of two people to perform for Mandela when he came to Canada as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, I seen the CBC interview with you on the Strombo show where they pulled up that old clip where you got an interview and you're like 15 there or 14.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what made these managers that you work with that I'm going to name significant to your career and how they help navigate things for you? Chase Parsons.
The Chase that you will see in 2024 was not the Chase from 94. I won't put his business out there, but Chase was a street cat them times. You know what I mean? Jungle Man, him and Super G. And they started managing first Socrates. Chase started managing Socrates, and Super G was his best friend. So, you know what I'm saying? Like he held it down. And then managed myself, managed Julie, managed Glenn. And Chase was dope. Chase he was tough. He wasn't always right, but Chase had an ear. The only thing was
Clearly.
he was in the streets hustling though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like for real. But the thing was that like he took his street money and he invested in the Mandem.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Various times, various ways. But, you know, Chase always made sure we were good at the time. And that was just our first time. He may not have known the business like that, you know what I mean? Like the record industry, but he had a belief in us.
And he cared.
Yeah. For sure.
It's more important than knowing the business, in my opinion, a lot of times.
Yeah.
We've talked about him a lot, and he's a legend. He's still in the game at the highest levels. Mr. Morgan.
After Chase, it was actually at the Northern Touch video shoot.
Which he's in, by the way.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm going to put that out there. Sorry, Mr. Morgan, but you're in the video.
You know, my guys, you know, the Rascals, they were managed by Figure 4. And I know at the time I needed management. And, you know, I approached Morgan and Saul, and Duguay was the third member, owner of Figure 4. And it was literally that day that they started managing me from the Northern Touch video shoot.
Oh, crazy.
Yep.
Wow.
And, you know, Saul G and Mr. Morgan lived in Brooklyn. They were roommates. They lived at 560.
Yeah.
And Duguay lived out in Vancouver. And, you know, again, that was family business because it was me, who was Chaos. It was the Rascals, you know what I mean? All under the Figure 4 umbrella. And, yeah, it was again, grind time, you know what I'm saying? Like it was a dope time, bro. It was a dope time. And through that, you know, Mr. Morgan connected me with Bobito and Stretching those guys. And I ended up going on my first European tour in the late 90s, the Boulevard Connection Tour, you know what I mean? With Dilated Peoples, The Roots, Mr. Complex, like, you know what I mean? Like a bunch of underground, hungry, you know, hungry MCs. And, you know, Mr. Morgan came from the DJ culture, and also I think he used to work for a magazine also at the time.
Okay.
So he had a lot of connections, and Morgan really taught me what it was like and taught me the importance of relationships at the time and meeting different people, connecting, networking, You know what I'm saying? Because that's how we started to get those opportunities, like going on that European tour. And, you know, that first show, it was me and Solitaire. We were on first. We killed that shit so bad. The next day, we were on like third from last. It was us, then Dilated
Sick.
Peoples, then The Roots.
Yeah.
But that's just because we got those opportunities, murdered it, and it is what it is. But again, you know, that Figure 4 time, that was a lot of things happened and transpired during that time. That's when I got my first record deal right after my pops died. That's when I got the deal with MCA.
Yeah.
In LA. I still remember the call. You know what I'm saying? When they called and Naeem was with the lawyer and he's like, yo, we love to offer you a deal at MCA. So pivotal times, man.
That's dope. And he was with you during the Dangerous time?
Right up to just after the Dangerous time.
Just after the Dangerous time.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when you started in and around that time being managed by Mark Pitts and his company and his people.
Mm-hmm. So probably 2010. 2010, we had gone on tour in Australia.
Yeah.
And we were just doing mad things, like just a lot of things. And hey, listen, and me and Morgs are cool to this day. Like it was an amicable thing. It wasn't no beef, no nothing. Love Mr. Morgan. We had created history together.
Good peoples.
Yep.
Yep.
But at the time, it kind of felt like, probably for both of us, that the same way I was growing as an artist, he was growing as a manager.
Mm-hmm.
You feel what I'm saying? And we had parted ways. And I had always heard about Mark Pitts. From like my whole career, people like, Mark Pitts is a big fan. He's your biggest fan. I'm like, he's never linked me one time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
I get a call.
For those who don't know, Mark Pitts was Biggie's manager.
Mark Pitts was Biggie's manager from literally from the mud.
Yeah. Day
up.
one.
You know, he worked with Puff to start Bad, all that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mark Pitts was the one that helped squash the beef between Jay-Z and Nas.
Oh wow, okay. I didn't know.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
okay. Cool.
Yeah. Mark Pitts is, you know, he's the guy.
Uh-huh.
And I get this call that says, yo, Mark, you know, Mark Pitts is looking for you because he wants you to jump on this Miguel remix or whatever. Like, all right. So I get on the phone with him. He sends me the joint. 15 minutes. I send it back within the hour. And the next day, he's like, yo, so when do you think you're going to be able to finish the joint? I was like, I sent it to you yesterday. He was like, the song is done?
Yeah.
I was like, bro, go check your email. Like, it was done from... Anyways, he goes, when's the next time you're going to be in New York? I said, yo, it's crazy. I'm supposed to be there this Friday. He's like, word? He's like, yo, come check me. I said, all right, cool. I hung up the phone. I called Estelle. Yo, Estelle, can I come sleep on your couch? Of course. What up? He's like, yo, I got a meeting with Mark Pitts.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, dope, no problem.
Yeah.
Bought a flight, slept on Estelle's couch, but went to go see Mark Pitts. And it was supposed to be like a 15-minute meeting. We ended up being in there for like 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And his cousin, Wayne Barrow, came in, who I came to find out was the partner in Bystorm. And he just came in and he just stood there and he was just listening, taking it in, loose talk. And yep. And 48 hours later, he hit me back. He's like, yo, I would love to be in business with you. Became mega close with out of that whole thing. And he taught me so much and mentored so much. And it was through Wayne that I was able to really get an understanding of how important the executive side would be. You know what I'm saying? Like, he really ushered me in, handheld, helped me to navigate a bunch of things, life-wise. You know what I'm saying? So I remember the first time, and this is important for artists as well. I remember going into the office. He's like, yo, so, you know, what are you trying to accomplish? Like, you know, like what can we help you do? I was like, all right, I need a bigger house. Yo, man's trying to get a wickeder car. Ray. And he's like, after I wrote down this, he's like, nah, bro. Like, what are you trying, in life? Mm-hmm. You have kids? You know what I'm saying? It's like you need kids, bro. Like we need to be able to figure out your life so you can support a family. You know what I mean? Like he showed me like real life things. And that type of manager artist relationship, if you're lucky enough to experience that, is one of the greatest things. You know what I'm saying? Like he he is just a person who is so balanced and super wise, and taught me about the 80-20 split. He's like, yo, I'm doing my job correctly if you're only thinking about the business 20% of the time. He's like, the other 80%, let me deal with it.
Okay.
You got to be in a situation where you can trust me to take care of 80% of the business. Because he's like, I don't want you taking away from your creative energy, worrying about what's happening in this deal, this contract, this tour, logistics. He's like, yo, good management, those people are supposed to deal with that while you're in studio, worried only about the next note, the next lyric.
Being an artist.
Yeah. 20% is to make sure you have a basic understanding of the foundation and the principles of business etiquette, how we do things, why we do it, where we do it, what's the cadence of it, whatever. But he's like, 80%, excuse me, let us handle that.
Dope.
And that was a lot of weight off my shoulders, because sometimes because of my own ways and sometimes because of old management, I ended up micromanaging things unnecessarily and really taking away from the creative side to where Wayne was like, yo, I got you, my bro. And through that, doing business with those guys, you know, this is at a time where I'm like, yo, I'm touring the world still. Going to Beirut, going to Dubai, going to India, going to all these, like touring the globe again 3 times over. And, you know, it's through the guidance of these guys, but these were the guys that also helped me really sharpen up my business acumen.
That's dope. 2 more. My fellow Colombiano, Carlos Pineda.
Yeah, I met Carlos because initially I was in a management partnership thing.
Do you still think he's Mexican?
He's not?
He's not. He's Colombian.
All right.
Continue.
1916. Lex Barrero.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, Lex Barrero and oh man, I'm not trying to do
Ivan.
This. Why can't
Ivan Rodriguez. Yeah, Ivan.
Yeah, and Ivani. Like, you know, those two I hadn't experienced the glitz of management before. Like those guys are like, what did he say, Kardi? Don't worry about that. I got you. Yo, like those guys are like, nah. Was he want to fly? No, we're all flying business class. He thinks he's gonna buy you 6 coach? We're all flying first. What did he say? 10,000? Nah, bro, I'm getting you 25. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like those guys, like
Colombian shit.
well, but through those vibes, you know, Carlos was a young guy at the time.
Yeah.
Like super young.
Yeah.
And he was working with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the time, he was doing his thing on the entertainment scene in the city. And, you know what I'm saying? Man's pulling in a lot of money, doing a lot of things. And, you know, eventually those guys went back to the States, but, you know, me and Carlos ended up rocking. And again, like just doing a lot of stuff. Why I like Carlos is more than 10 years younger than me. But that youthful energy that he had, it wasn't just the youthful energy, it was actually also super smart. So I love that he brought a certain perspective to the gang and to the team. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like certain things, he's like, yo, bro. He would say, yo, this is what's going on right now out on the road. Because there's certain times, like you get older, you get bored of that stuff, bro. Like I'm not gonna be the guy in his 40s that's out partying every Saturday.
Yeah, he was
like
tapped in.
Yeah, it's whack. Like I'm tapped in, but like I'm not going to the club every Saturday. Once a quarter maybe, but not once a week.
Yeah.
But anyway, Carlos was a very shrewd very like, he didn't play no games. Like half the time I'm like, bro, you gotta smile sometimes. Like Carlos was the pit bull, but he was in there like making sure that business got handled, dealt with a certain kind of way, but at the same time always brought a certain perspective that not that I didn't have access to, but like he allowed me in certain ways, like what Wayne was talking about, but different. He allowed me to chill because he would be out there being my eyes and then come back and be like, yo, this is wild going on. I'm like, okay. But Carlos was mad dope because we did a lot of firsts together. Even if you think about, I remember when Canada's Got Talent came calling and, you know, we had the conversation and he's like, yo, bro, like, yo, you can do anything, fam. Like he was very encouraging all the time. And I remember for me, that was a big leap to like leap into the TV realm. Like I'd always done TV and movies, but just guest appearances and, you know, guest roles in films. But like to become like a TV personality, it was a risk for the brand, you know what I mean? For like,
For sure.
the Cardinal brand and everything that I stood for, but it was a dope calculated risk, you know what I'm saying? And it helped just expand, you know what I'm saying? Gain just a lot more, like it scaled the fan base.
Yeah.
And it diversified it too.
Yeah.
Because there's what they say about TV, like concerts, people dress up and they go to you. For TV, you dress up and you go to them.
Yeah.
You're in their house.
Yeah.
While they're in their boxers, in their pajamas, you're in their home.
Yeah.
So it's very different from music. You feel like a lot of the people from TV, they feel like you're part of their family because the kids are watching, the aunties are watching, the uncles, the grandparents, you know what I mean? So it's a very different experience. But all of that stuff I experienced during my time. Now, we still work together, you know what I'm saying? Like, we still rock and, you know, we work together with a lot of, you know, different producers and writers that he has and all the rest of that. So that's still, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's still my guy. We still do things together, but.
That's what's up.
But, yeah.
Last but not least, it's relatively new, working with Chris Taylor.
Very new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So far, the experience?
It's very interesting because I had said a prayer in the morning because I'm doing very well, but I felt like, I'm like, yo, I feel like, again, like it's been a common theme throughout our conversation. I felt like I hit a ceiling. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're doing well, but I feel like I could be doing exponentially better.
Okay.
And again, not like, yo, Carlos is like, that's my brother, like my best friend. But the thing is, it's like you can't be, has nothing to do with him. You can't be 32 and know what it's like to be 50. It's impossible. The only thing that can allow you to know certain things is time and gaining the wisdom over time. The only thing is, I don't have that time. Like, I'm not in my 30s to where I'm like, oh, we got mad years. We can figure it out. Like, for me, once you get older and your priorities change, it's like you also realize, not in a desperation type of way, but time looks different when you start to get into your 40s and when you've been in the game long enough. Even though I'm like super active, you know what I'm saying, and
Very
blessed to be doing all the things, at the same time, like just sharing personal goals with you, it's like, I'm at a place where it's like I only want to do the things that I'm passionate about with the people that I love, doing what I love, not trying to do all that extra shit in between. But we don't have any 401k. We don't have any random pension stuff that we contribute to. So we got to make the right business moves at the right time. And I had said a prayer in the summertime, and literally the phone rang, and it was one of my mentors. And I was telling him what I was thinking about. And he was like, yo, check your email. And I was like, yo, what is this? And he's like, yo, this might be, you know what I mean? This might be something dope. He's like, yo, expect a phone call. And, you know, Chris them had reached out, and it was just one of those things where it started just as a conversation.
Yeah.
I didn't know him. Like, the thing is, I knew that He had worked with everybody from Nelly Furtado, Drake, Gordon Light. Like, I knew
As a lawyer, and then went to go run E1 and then Monarch afterwards. Yeah. Like,
all of that.
Yeah.
I knew of him because he was one of the biggest entities from this country.
Sure.
And, obviously in the States now for the past 13 years,
Yeah.
but we had never worked together. We never even had a conversation.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, so he was just like, yo, I've worked with the who's who in Canada. He's like, we have never done anything.
Right.
I was like, you're correct. And we spent the next little while like getting to know each other, and it was just the right timing because, this new entity, this Hall of Fame entertainment group that he has right now, with what it is that I need to do with my career, the way that I need to do it, and the access to certain relationships and opportunities is something that, if you know Chris Taylor, you know that what I like about him is anybody that I reached out to, as long as they weren't on the opposite side of the table, anybody that worked with him, they're like, he's a solid guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's
so.
He's a solid guy. And getting to know him, 1,000%, it was difficult. It was difficult, but, it was just one of those moves where I was just like, I don't want to be that old guy who was like, fuck, I should have.
Yeah.
I wish I did.
That's fair.
Like, I try not to do that anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I realize that, like, things might be mad uncomfortable. It might feel like you don't see the safety net when you jump off of the cliff. But I find that a lot of times, almost all the times, the biggest rewards is on the other side of dealing with your fears and your anxieties.
100%. There's really no safety net in this industry, and you've been doing this now, like you said, for 30 years, and it's the last thing I'm going to ask you over here, because by the time this podcast come out, about a couple of days later, you're going to be honored with the Legacy Award for the Akon Legacy Award. What does that feel like, and what does that mean to you?
Honestly, I'm still learning to, not to accept it, but like, I never want to ever become narcissistic or ego-driven or have these things be the motivating factors. But what I do also realize is that these things are so incredible to be able to receive while you're alive, because there's many people that die and get all the accolades and flowers after. So to be seen, to receive an Akon award, but to receive an Akon award from your people, you know what I'm saying? Like, no disrespect to all the other prestigious awards, but like, this, it's like a FUBU moment. It's for us, by us kind of a thing.
Right.
So to be able to get an Akon award and be seen as an icon amongst your people, that was an aspiration of mine many years ago, because I looked at when people called other people icons, and I'm just like, what did that mean? Like, how did that ring bells? Like, how did it resonate with me and other everyday people? There's a lot that goes into being an icon, but what kind of an icon do I want to be? I feel that I've carved out my own path. When you think about all those artists that we spoke about, that I worked with, you think about the producers, you think about those sleepless nights, those times when you had no bread. You think about the relationships that were strained and then mended once again. You think about the impact that you've had on your community, on your city, on the country, but then it goes further, and you think about the cultural impact that you have globally. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just recently came back from Japan and from the UK, and when you go to Japan and you might hear your tune playing in a store over there. You go to the UK and you walk into the radio station. Like, I went to go support Skip Marley, but after the interviews are done, when those radio personalities are like, yo, do you know who's in the room? you know who this guy is? Like, to me, I'm glad that I was able to be recognized as an icon in my terms or on my terms. You know what I'm saying? Like, doing it in a way where I don't ever look at my kids and feel no type of way like, yo, one day you're going to hear this about your dad, or you're going to go on the internet, you're going to see this wild thing, like something that I got to explain.
Yeah.
Like, that is something that's incredible that not a lot of artists have, especially in this day and time.
That's a fact.
You know, kids get older, your elders get more savvy with their phones, and all of a sudden they're calling and they're like, hey, yo, what is this that I just, you know what I mean? I was able to do it, bro, with a clean heart and a clean spirit and a clean conscience, and still doing it.
Yep.
And I think, you know, shout out to my mom, but like, coming from the community and always being rooted in the community, no matter how big I get, you know what I mean? Yes, things will look different, but knowing that you have the same core values that you were raised with and that you never let go of that, but those are the same things that are going to continue to help propel you to the next level. This is my background music. This is what allowed me to become the icon that you know and that you see before you.
So look, it's yours. Yo, wrap it up, B. you done. No.
Yo, that was crazy. It turned a mad sentimental moment into something
Put the sign up.
hilarious. That's fire. That's dope. But yeah, that's what that is.
Finish that.
In closing,
Yeah.
Man, it's dope. It's really dope. And yeah, it is. I'm very thankful. And to be able to live in it, like to live in I'll close like this. Chapelle is like, and I'm gonna mess it up, but you'll get the point. Sometimes you look around and it's either you are alive in somebody else's dream or you're alive in your own dream. Walking around. Some days you walk at, like you wake up and you're like, shit, I'm either literally in somebody else's dream sometimes, or you look around in the room and you're like, I'm walking around in my own dream. And it's like, days like receiving the Akon award and things like that is when you have those moments to where you can stop and be like, yo, this is ill. I'm walking around in my own dream as it's happening.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what it is.
My brother, I can't thank you enough for spending the time here with us. Thank you so much.
Bro,
Appreciate you.
You are representing for the Mexican community like nobody else.
Yo, I missed the fro, Holmes.
What's up, Holmes?
Appreciate you, man. Thank you
bro.
so much.
Love you,
This has
fam.
been amazing. Love.
Yes.